Hello everybody and welcome to our Chess24 coverage of the Dortmund Sparkassen chess meeting. Or I do believe that they call it the Vladimir Kramnik tournament this year. And while Vladimir Kramnik went into it as the world number 2, the highest rated player, his hopes of winning the tournament for the 11th time took a bit of a hit in the first round when he went down against his compatriot Vladimir Fedoseev. I'm not quite sure what went wrong for Kramnik there. This is their game in the first round. But the crucial position seems to be this one, where he decided to throw quite some of his pieces at the black construction. But black Fedoseev remained very solid. Here Kramnik just overdid it. Played queen h5. This just does not work. Piece is a piece after queen c4, rook e6. The big question is, what did Kramnik miss? Because after Fedoseev's king to f8, he was just completely lost. And after knight takes e6, he would also have been lost. Therefore, strange first game by Vladimir Kramnik, even though I just read Colin's article on it. It's not the first time in recent years that he went down in round number 1 in Dortmund. The other games ended peacefully. Therefore, anything can still happen with Fedoseev, the player of the year so far. Is that a bit of a stretch? Maybe Mamedyarov is the player of the year. I don't know, but Fedoseev, the before 2017 barely known Russian talent. Is that offensive? I never know what to say. The up-and-coming star Fedoseev leads the tournament and faces Bluebaum, the German up-and-coming star, with the black pieces today. I have a feeling, since it's Sunday, I should probably close one more button and then start talking about the openings. This is an opening I know well. It's the so-called Semi-Slav employed by Fedoseev, who's been working with Alexander Khalivman, one of the most respected theoreticians out there. Therefore, you can't catch this guy off guard in the opening easily. Bluebaum is a very strong theoretician in his own right. How old is he? 20-year-old German up-and-comer. I should stop saying up-and-comer. Sounds condescending. He's higher rated than me by 2 points. Therefore, I'm watching you, Mr. Bluebaum. Queen c2 has replaced bishop d3 as the main line in recent years, making half a waiting move before committing to this move bishop d3. And after bishop d6, of course, people have tried other moves. But normally, they want to go for this now, arguing that with the bishop on d6, some of the sharp lines with dc4 and b5 at least become a little less sharp. So all of this is well-known business, even though recently black has had some success trying to dry the game out by playing e5 here, which often leads to mass simplifications after takes, and e4, where black has been defending his territory. But not a lot of winning chances there. Maybe Fedoseev wants to mix it a little more, and he plays d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and now instead of the main move b5, he plays the move e5, which is a move I've studied. I mainly started studying it after I lost to Ruslan Ponomarev, who used it against me, and I played badly and cluelessly. It's a move that is a bit underrated by modern theory, and I believe it comes very close to equalizing. So curious to see if Bluebaum is ready for this, what he has up his sleeve. Rook to d1, I believe, is the main move here. We'll see how that one goes. Fedoseev seems to be not very surprised. An interesting position is in the next Russian versus Russian encounter for Vladimir Kramnik, who faced Fedoseev and lost in round number 1. And in round number 2, he's dealing with Andreikin, who I believe has scored some big wins against Kramnik already. At some point, Andreikin was 3-0 versus Kramnik. Bit of a bête noire for him. That might have changed since Kramnik defeated Andreikin in that World Cup. Still, Andreikin is a player who's not afraid to play slightly goofy openings. And we see that here, where he employs the Vienna 2 knight c3. People nowadays don't play f4 anymore here after d5. White is struggling to equalize. But the move g3 signals, I don't want to have a theory discussion with you, Mr. Vladimir Kramnik. I just want to get the pieces out. I don't need an advantage. Let's play some chess. Thing with Kramnik is, however, he knows everything about everything. You can't surprise him by just going for a sideline. And after g3, bishop to c5 is what Kramnik chooses, which I believe this also used to be my repertoire, bishop c5, and after bishop g2, you go for c6, planning to expand in the center with c5, with d5. But looks like Andreikin was expecting this. Kramnik, I think, has done this in the past, and he strikes with the, or strikes is strong, but surprises me at least, with the very, very strong move, f4. Why did I say very, very strong move? Very, very surprising or very, very aggressive move is probably more likely. I have no idea if it's strong. It does surprise me. I'm not making a lot of sense yet. But then again, you're used to that. f4, very aggressive. Looks like a bit of a King's Gambitish idea, trying to fight for the center before Black gets his stake with d5. And I would assume ef4 is too risky because of e5 grabbing more space. Then d4 would come. That looks like a good Vienna, good King's Gambit version. So Kramnik goes d6. I'm not sure, you could probably study this in more detail, but we don't have the time. There's so many games going. Kramnik goes d6, knight f3, castles, d3. And this reminds me of some, what do you call those? Declined King's Gambits, King's Gambit declines positions, where I always thought white was doing okay. But in those you normally don't play g3, bishop g2, but you put your bishop on c4 or b5. So, bit of a compromise. Andreikin plays knight f3, castles d3, with a weird position really. White can't castle so easily, this bishop staring him down. You could try to fight against it with knight a4. With black, you always have to at least wonder if white does have this slow King's Indian style attack plan with f5, h3 and g4, even though I don't think that's in the making just yet. But Andreikin has managed to get a very fresh position against Kramnik out of the opening. We'll see how this one goes. We'll see how Kramnik readjusts to his loss in the first round, which, let's be honest, sort of robbed us of the main narrative we had for this tournament. Will Kramnik manage to catch Magnus Carlsen in the world rankings? Will he be able to become #1 in the world at the ripe old age of 42? Currently, it does not look like it, because after his first round loss, Kramnik not only is far away from Magnus Carlsen, he also fell behind. This is 2700chess.com. He fell behind Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana, so the Americans, back to #2 and 3. And Magnus, if he follows these things, I'm not sure, can rest quite calmly, because Kramnik now, in order to get the 5.5 out of 7, that would mean world #1, would have to pull off quite a stunt. As for the position, I have no idea what's going on. I guess black is comfortable, but it's a very fresh position, which is probably what Andreikin was opting for. In other news, we have the German #1, Liviu Dieter Nisipianu, with the white pieces against MVL. MVL, always well prepared, even though he did not impress in round 1 against fellow super theoretician Radek Wojtaszek, where MVL had to fight for a draw with the white pieces, really. Nisipianu says, "You're a Grunfeld player, I will play this anti-Grunfeld move order, forcing you to decide if you want to go for knight f6, g6, d5, or for what MVL is doing, c5, then knight f6, d5. MVL has also played quite a bit of knight c6, knight c3, e5 here. I'm curious why he didn't go for that today. But for this game, he's opted for this move order, when if white were to play d4, black would take and play g6, and we're back in Grunfeld waters after e4, bishop g7. So Grunfeld players are not afraid of d4 here, therefore white normally chooses a different move, either e4, g3 or e3. And in this game, Nisipianu plays the move g3. Knight to c6, bishop to g2, and here, in my days, they mainly played knight to c7, castles and e5, trying to occupy the center. In Maroczy style, I don't think that setup has ever been refuted. It's still very much out there. Sometimes people play a3 here. But MVL decides that he wants to fianchetto his bishop, goes for g6. Also a fully fledged main line, no surprise there. d3 by Nisipiano. The point of starting with d3 is that after castles bishop g7, d3 would include a pawn sacrifice. Well, if you start with it here, then you can meet bishop g7 with bishop d2. It's not exactly a world beater of an idea, but it looks like Nisi is happy getting a quiet Englishish reversed Maroczy, I have no idea what to call this, position where, yeah, I would guess black is fine. If you're allowed to develop without any incidents here with black, there's normally no issues. And d3, bishop d2 is a bit slow. I guess you can just play b6. Normally the big thing is if you get b6, bishop b7 without drama happening on this long diagonal, you're in good shape. So you better calculate that there's no tricks here, but I don't really see them. Therefore, to my mind, b6 looks like a very comfortable position for black. We'll see what Nisi has in mind so far. I think MVL is doing very well. Unless there is some trick here. Doesn't look like. Mr. Radek Wojtaszek. One of my favorites to follow, at least in the opening. Summer fans meant, no, Radek one of the best theoreticians in the world. And there's always something to learn from his opening choices and how he treats things. Not only because of his work with Vishy Anand, even though I'm sure there he honed his skills, spending a lot of time with my friend Peter Heine Nielsen, also a premier opening theoretician. Radek certainly learned the art of opening preparation and is now one of the best in the world at it. In this game, he chooses the Nimzo 4 knight f3 line, which used to be played a lot when black would play c5 and after g3, white would normally get exciting play. Then there was a bit of a road bump in form of b6 against which people didn't know what to do. And as I think people still don't know what to do against b6. Normally nowadays white plays queen c2 and a3, goes for these lines, which aren't anything special. But I'm excited to see that Wang Yue, the Chinese participant, plays the line which I recommended in my video series on the Nimzo. He plays the move short castles. That for a long time was considered to be a subpar move because of bishop to g5, the move played by Wojtaszek. When now, if you want to kick this bishop away to break the pin, go h6, g5. You already put your king in front of these pawns. Therefore, weakening your cover is not that desirable here. But things have changed and people have figured out that you can play differently here. After c5, the main line used to be rook to c1, which was considered to be good for white. But after cd, knight d4, I can never remember what I recommended, but I do believe that I recommended this. d5, the tactics and the strong computers seem to say everything's fine for black. Don't you worry about a thing. And for details, yeah, please check my series, because I can't remember. In the game, Wojtaszek, instead of rook c1, played the move e3, the other critical line. And I believe this is also where I recommended, but I can't remember things. Watch my series. Takes, and d5, and which very likely to transpose to some sort of isolated pawn situation after rook c1. I wish I knew what I gave. I have a feeling I probably didn't give bishop e7 but knight c6, which frankly looks like a more logical move, waiting for a3. But Wang Yue retreats immediately. Maybe he was concerned about something like this, a3 followed by c5, and white is ready to keep his structure intact by following it up with b4. I have a feeling I might have looked at something like this. Can't remember. Anyway, bishop to e7 played by Wang Yue, breaking this pin, saying, okay, I was just kidding with my pinning your bishop. All I really want is to take on c4, inflict harm on your pawn structure, and then play this IQP, isolated queen's pawn position. White can think about c5 here. Once again, after knight c6, you could transpose to what I was just talking about by playing a3, or maybe go bishop to b5, another typical move. But I have a feeling the point of bishop e7 is that you don't want to meet c5 with knight c6, but maybe with some direct attack against this pawn chain, playing b6. Even though b4, I'm not sure we can break this. a5, a3, and the big question is always, can this stuff be broken up or not? Not clear to me. Here it looks like probably black is not in time to be a breaker of chains, mother of dragons, in this particular situation. MVL played b6. Yeah, I think MVL is very comfortable here. Not impressed with Nisi's opening choice. I believe Nisi expected knight to Nisi piano, I should say. I don't really call him Nisi in person, so I guess it's condescending to use that nickname, is it? I never know. I would guess Nisi piano expected knight c6, knight c3, e5, which MVL normally plays, and didn't have much up his sleeve against the line he actually chose. Where now, yeah. I already prefer black. If you manage to develop the pieces, black has more influence in the center. Therefore, white should think about ways to simplify his position very quickly. Like takes, so bishop c3 comes to mind. Even then, bishop b7. The structure is dangerous for white. Did I call Wang Yue Wei Yi? Am I going nuts? It's very possible I did do that. And I'm being told I can't call him Nisi. Thanks, Peter Miskovic. You never know, like, what to call people, what not to call people. But yeah, I don't think Dieter, in person I normally call him Dieter, would be offended by being called Nisi. And yeah, I've said a lot of strange things already. If I called Wang Yue Wei Yi, I apologize. Wei Yi on everybody's mind after crushing everybody in this Danzhou tournament, where last time I checked he had 5.5 out of 7 winning rating, left and right, entering, where is he? The top 15. He's world number 14, Wei Yi at 2.756. But of course, in Dortmund, this is Wang Yue, who's only 2.699, only in brackets, of course, and has not been very active recently. I talked about this yesterday. He played 7 games in the Chinese League in 2017, 7 draws. Did not play any other games, so it's a bit of a mystery invite, but there is some possibilities that, for example, the Dortmund Partner City of Xi'an in China wanted a representative, and Wang Yue was born only 600 kilometers away from that city, which, as I'm told, in China is not very far. It's like in Khanty-Mansiysk, we had some local host during the Olympia to show us the way around, and he said, no, I'm not exactly from here, I'm from the next village. I came over by bus, and we asked him, how far is your village away? He said it's like 800 kilometers. So distances are different in some places. Germany, 800 kilometers, quite far. Dortmund is 300 kilometers away from Hamburg, where I am. And I would never go there, like it's a huge trip, 300 kilometers. Never is wrong, I've been there plenty, it's a nice place. But I wouldn't just go to visit, like 300 kilometers, oof. You should go though, if you have the chance to see all these chess stars in action, live and direct. You don't get that many super tournaments in the Germanys. We have the Baden-Baden Super Tournament every other year, and sometimes they also organize other things. Now we have this Super Open in Karlsruhe, the Grenke Open. And there's Dortmund, which I guess is not bad compared with many other chess-playing nations. But it's not that many chances to see a star of Vladimir Kramnik's caliber in this little country of ours. Speaking of Vladimir Kramnik, he probably knows what he's doing. I don't know what either side is doing. After d3, Kramnik went a5. That move I understand. His point is that you want to fight against knight a4. If you go here, knight a4 is annoying. We can't keep this bishop on this diagonal. You could still say bishop b4 check is alright, but a5 makes a lot of sense. Grabbing space and just stopping knight a4 forever. Stopping white from castling. Therefore, Andreikin plays queen to e2. Kramnik goes knight bd7. The next move is very cryptic. He plays a3. Don't get it. I was assuming that the point of queen to e2 was to play bishop to e3, to exchange bishops and to make it possible to castle kingside. Well, I'm guessing black isn't that concerned because his bishop on g2 is a little passive. I don't know, maybe you keep grabbing space here or you go b5. Looks quite playable for black, but I thought that has to be the idea of queen e2. Well, a3, I'm honestly not sure what that's about. Kramnik plays rook e8, also saying, I'm not quite sure what you're doing, Mr. Andreikin. Please reveal your cards. Next move. It looks like white is already in some trouble, maybe? Because you can't castle queenside, especially having played a3, but you couldn't do it anyway, because you'll just checkmate it here very, very quickly. So this is not a home for the king. Therefore, you sort of have to go bishop e3 and then castle kingside. But having lost that tempo, it already feels like bad things could happen to you. d5, can I go d5? No, I can't go d5. I can take, then go d5 maybe. This feels very, very dangerous for white already. He's lost a bunch of time with his move a3, and yeah, really, I can't see one positive of a3. Like if you want to go knight a4 and stop bishop b4 check, I understand. But you never want to go knight a4 after a5 because bishop a7 is coming. So a3. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Strange move, and I have a feeling Andreikin is gonna regret his opening treatment and has to be very, very careful now to make it out of the opening, which is not something you want with the white pieces after 9 moves. What are we talking about in the chat? Jorge82 is saying he went all the way to Karlsruhe to meet me. From where? You might be from Karlsruhe. And I just sent my dude Lawrence. My dude Lawrence will join me for the rounds 3 till 7 of this tournament. Give us even more of a voice of chess in the studio. And Jorge says, I still haven't got my money for the petrol back. Did I deceive you, Jorge? Did I tell you I was going to be in Karlsruhe and then I didn't show up? That would be very mean of me, but I can't recall ever having said I was going to go to Karlsruhe. But I am very, very sorry. And no, you're not getting your money back by any chance. What else are we talking about? Coco 2003 saying, I live in Vienna. I am 744 kilometers away from Hamburg, which is not that far since you're in a different country. I've been to Vienna plenty. It's a lovely place. Funbeat is saying, Jan, who's your favorite player participating in this tournament? The thing is, and this sounds like a bailout, but it's true, that the more commentary you do, the less favorites you have. Like, it's like being a sports fan and then you become a sports writer or whatever. And it sort of numbs you for, yeah, who's your favorite and so on. What I can say is that growing up as a kid, I idolized Kramnik. Like, I read his books, I loved his chess style, I was following his games, especially his 1d4 openings have been big, or his 1 knight f3 openings have been a big influence. So Kramnik has always been a chess hero of mine. But yeah, there's not a lot of bad stuff I have to say about anybody. Like Andreikin, I've praised yesterday already. He has a very original style. I like watching his games. Bluebaum, I wish I could talk trash about him. Seems like a perfectly nice guy from every interaction I've had with him. Fedosseev, I've never met. I've only seen, yeah, that he's on the rise this year, as evidenced by his win yesterday. Nisipiano, I've always been on excellent terms with too. Very, very friendly fella. You'll be hard-pressed to find someone who dislikes Nisipiano. MVL is my colleague on Team Carlsen. We spent a lot of time in lovely Kragerø, Norway together, and no one killed each other. So yeah, I've always gotten along well with Monsieur MVL as well. Radek, I've played on 2 teams with. Hamburg, we used to be board 1 and 2, and now he's joined the Baden-Baden team. Also one of these guys where you won't find anybody saying a bad word about Radek, just a friendly dude. Wang Yue, I can't say I talk much to Wang Yue. In my smokers days, we met plenty in smokers areas of Olympiads, World Cups, tournaments like that. And I always felt like we had a connection, like the way we would smoke our cigarettes. But yeah, as you can see, there's no close personal enemies of mine in that field. When it comes to favorites, I don't know, Kramnik is the guy I've spent the most time following. He also has his birthday on the same day as mine, but I'm not really rooting for anybody or against anybody. Of course, except for you, Bluebum, you need to lose these 2 rating points. Like, nothing personal, but I'm 2640, you're 2642. There's a lot at stake with these. Who's number 1, 2, 3? Okay, 1 is a bit far at the moment, that needs to be in Germany. So, once you're 2639, we can be friends again, Bluebum. And you know time is on my side. I mean, I'm a 30-year-old retired player, you're a 20-year-old up-and-comer, so you know you can't win this rating battle against me in the long run. Any interesting chess positions? Maybe this one is a bit interesting because Radek did what I said, look critical. He played this move c5 and Wang Yue has played the move b6, trying to undermine this pawn structure. Then b4, a5 is on the board, which I was looking at earlier. When a3 seems logical, and then black has to think of some way to undermine this. But maybe this position is not bad. I wish I could cheat and watch my own video series while I'm talking about this. I'm very curious if I recommended something like this for black. I'm currently cheating and looking at the engine evaluation. The engine says black is fine and has the very powerful move rook a3 followed by queen a5 here. The engine is also saying that instead of a3, it's a better idea to go bishop takes f6. Not the first move that comes to mind, really. The point is after bishop takes f6, we've distracted this bishop from this diagonal, and we can now push our b-pawn, go b5, without c5 hanging. So very interesting idea, very non-standard. If black has to go gf, of course he's weakened his king quite significantly. Therefore, maybe what Wang Yue is doing does not really work because of bishop takes f6. And Radek, who I've already mentioned, one of the best theoreticians out there, probably knows this is not great because the computer didn't give it, and now is to figure out why. The answer is not the obvious a3, but the not so obvious bishop takes f6. Another move that's typical in such situations is the move knight to a4, trying to put pressure on this b6 pawn and trying to force bc, bc, which looks nice for white. But after knight a4, I guess here a b4, knight b6, and either rook a2 or rook a3 are reasonable for black. See, Hernandez is asking, how often do you play with Yue Wang? Like, do you mean if we have play dates, if we meet to hang out and play? Or how often did you play? I never played Wang Yue, as far as I can recall. I have a horrible memory, but I would remember such an event. No, I don't think I've ever played him. And yeah, Gustav Chatterjee, sorry for mispronouncing, says bishop f6 goes against all instincts. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it had I not had the computer running here. And once you see it, as always with computer moves, it's very logical. After bishop f6, b5, white is better. But it's not a move that makes your list of candidate moves. If it doesn't cross your mind, it doesn't cross your mind. Sometimes you just don't think of such moves because we normally don't give up a good bishop for a knight unprovoked. We'll see if Radek comes up with that. Pramod NVS says, Jan's solo commentary is so tough. It just got a lot tougher knowing that I will have to deal with your expert questions from now on. No, of course I'm joking. Always a pleasure to see Pramod NVS. What are we talking about? We're discussing what's called what? Some opening name discussion. I'm not very good on opening names. I do know that this is a good opening position for MVL. And Dieter better be careful here, because if you allow black to develop, he's just better. It's a reverse Maroczy where the one tempo won't matter so much, and the structure is very much favorable for black. Therefore, yeah, I don't think Dieter's idea of going d3 followed by bishop d2 will find many followers. Here, I'm not quite sure what the main line is in this position, but normally if they wanna, I've seen people play stuff like this, and now d3, castle, bishop e3, going for a very quick rook c1, or d4, or knight d4. After bishop b2, rook b1, I believe white is supposed to have good play. Still, of course, it's not like white is lost or anything. I'm just saying that I believe that black is already more comfortable after bishop b7, unless white is something direct. Speaking of, it's not like white is lost or anything. Andreikin is probably not lost yet, but he's really, really bungled that opening. And while I'm on this computer running binge, I'll switch it off in a second so you can get my wonderful, unfiltered grandmasterly thoughts. But after bishop e3, the computer says we have this move. Ooh, beautiful. Knight d5, e d5, e f4, and very bad things would be done to Andreikin on the d file, e file that is. So knight d5, cute shot, bishop c5, knight c5. White is under a lot of pressure because he still can't take here because of this. It could be that Andreikin was planning bishop e3 and now realizes things aren't so easy. I still struggle to make sense of the move a3. One reason could be that he disliked bishop to b4. But if you're white here, you should celebrate. You forced this bishop to go to b4. So yeah, I don't get this move a3, and it looks like he's paying the price for it, because after rook e8, bishop e3, there is this shot. And yeah, the normal looking ef followed by d5 also looks pretty decent. Knight d5 is very cute, of course. What is going on in Mr. Bluebaum's game? So after e5 he played h3, which is also a very typical move for these structures. Hang on, isn't this what I did? I have a feeling this is what I played too. I can't remember, I think. h3, queen to e7, and bishop b3. Now the typical move, prophylactic, stopping black from going, let's say, e4, knight d2, knight b6, hitting the bishop, and then bringing this bishop to f5. And to my great surprise, Fedoseev played the move knight to b6 here anyway, which I don't understand. I have a feeling... Can you go h6? I can't recall theory. h6, knight h4 is often a problem. I have a feeling I already dislike queen e7, but I'm not 100% sure. But... I should stop embarrassingly trying to remember anything. Maybe h6. Anyway, h3, queen e7, bishop b3, knight b6. The reason I'm so surprised is because it allows white to take on e5 twice. Just gaining the two bishops and gaining the quote-unquote good bishop, the d6 bishop that has to give his life for this. Now after either e4 or f4 followed by e4, looks like white has a very nice position. Doesn't it? I'm confused. I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to push all these pawns, I want a kingside attack, and I'm not quite sure what black has to show for it. You want to make sure there's no knight g4, check, pawn is already on h3. You want to make sure the bishop e6 doesn't really hurt us, which I don't think it does, even just bishop e3, followed by f4. Looks very, very nice for white to me. Therefore, yeah, I think Fedoseev has bungled the opening phase. I would have to look into it some more. I have a feeling that after h3, he's supposed to go either h6, so maybe takes here. And the queen e7 is wrong in this order. Bishop b3, knight b6 just can't be right. The problem is you want to go rook e8, but there's always knight g5, forcing you to go back to f8, which I still prefer over what happened in the game, but it's probably not a great setup. So yeah, Fedoseev lost the opening battle. Let's see if he will follow up his upset of defeating Kramnik by another upset, losing to Bluebaum. Because this looks really bad. Might not look like so much, but when white manages to consolidate this 4 versus 3 on the king side here, and there's no direct counterplay, then these pawns just start rolling very fast. f4, f5, f4, e5, and the king, they often sweep everything in their way. So this is a serious situation, and Fedoseev has to be very, very cautious. White could also start with f4. I have hesitated saying that because of queen c5 earlier. Stopping e4. And yeah, I still think so. Should start with e4. So far, it looks like it's opposite state because... Ah, no, I was going to say, because black is doing so well. But in this game, I have a feeling white is doing very well. In the Andreikin game, black is doing excellently. It's one of the worst positions I've seen someone have with the white pieces after 9 moves. And Andreikin will probably regret his opening experiment. Not so much as g3, bishop g2, but f4 is quite daring. And it looked like, yeah, he didn't really have a follow-up. And even though I was praising the surprise value at first, it seems like Kramnik just calmly got his pieces out, stopped, kept his bishop on his diagonal, and then when white did not go bishop e3 after a3, this move rook e8 looks very, very strong, just setting up all kinds of tactics on the e-file. Not a fun situation to be in for Dmitry Andreikin. And Kramnik might be smelling blood, might be thinking, this can get me right into it. And Wojtaszek did not play the move bishop takes f6, which we've discussed is, yeah, extremely counterintuitive, extremely computerish, but was probably a good move. Bishop f6, b5. And even this position, obviously not over at all. Such a thing with his long bishop on his long diagonal and the 2 central pawns, still very double-edged, but these pawns are a force to be reckoned with. Wojtaszek played the other typical idea for these structures, which I mentioned, knight to a4. When after bc, you'd be very happy. In slightly different lines arising via the Caro-Kann, the typical reply here is knight fd7, but that probably is too slow here, because after takes, once again, this b5, and the c-pawn stays alive, it can get pushed even further. Therefore, after knight a4, it looks to me the only sensible move is takes, allowing knight takes b6, and now, yeah, I've mentioned this already, either rook a2 or rook a3, with double-edged play. Rook a2 might look logical, but then after queen to b3, white does win this pawn back. And if white can stabilize, just get the pieces out, remain with the passed pawn on c5, he's probably going to be a pretty happy camper. So rook a3 is also very much a possibility, just keeping this pawn grabbing for later. Bishop d3, now you go knight c6, now this pawn is defended. This is back on the map, and yeah, very double-edged. Let's see what Wang Yue comes up with. It's not really the quiet positional struggle that he normally enjoys, but he is a quality player. The Chinese have used him as a bit of a blocker in some of their Olympic teams. I recall in, where was it? In Tromsø, where China won the gold. Wang Yue was playing board 1 and he drew, I think he scored -1, drawing almost all of his games, losing to Peter Leko. But he drew most of the world's best players and was a big part in them, yeah, winning the gold. So he can play, is what I'm trying to say. He did have a run of like 80 unbeaten games around 10 years ago in super tournaments. So Wang Yue has been around the block. And all these guys, they are not one-trick ponies who can only play positionally, only tactically. He will have to calculate here. But I would not write him off. This AB4 looks fairly decent. This game looks like it could become quite exciting. Nisipianu agrees with my assessment, at least, that you should not allow black to get the pieces into the game and plays the move d3, d4, which looks very spectacular. But I believe this is a worse version of stuff you normally get out of this line. He's trying to simplify, because after c takes d4, you can go knight takes d4. And now, a lot of pretty horses are hanging. And after knight takes d4, probably knight takes d5. Feels like only, once again, black is slightly worse, but, no, black is slightly better. But it's not really a big deal. And I quite like Dieter's decision here to, not allow black to stabilize, get this advantageous structure. Which, I know, I make it sound like this is terrible. It's not terrible, but it's very unpleasant for white to play in the long run. So, I like that he's doing something about it instantly. After d4, cd, and knight takes d4 as the first move that came to my mind. This line might also be possible. Bishop c3, and now trying to recapture the pawn. Once again, trying to equalize. But probably successfully so, after, let's say. Something like this. Looks fairly equal, because now we've undermined the Maroczy structure. And here, well, frankly, it's handshaking time. Queen d4 check, followed by let's go home negotiations. So Nisi understands. He's been around the block a few times. The opening has gone wrong. It's time to bail out before you must suffer long and pointlessly. And kudos to him. He takes very good, at least practical, but I also think objectively very good decision to simplify the situation before this gets more serious. Bluebaum still taking time here. He will play e4 though. What else is there? You can't allow bishop to f5. And f4 is just a worse move because of queen to c5. Maybe he's considering something like this. Sometimes you do that, f4, f5, trying to cripple this bishop on c8. But it's very, very double-edged. We are giving away all these positional trumps you had by fighting for central control. Pushing this pawn might be good, but I wouldn't do it if there is a good alternative in form of e4. But that could be why Bluebaum was taking his time here. That's all there is. 4 games running today. Let's do predictions. If there is one talent I have in life, it is to get the results of chess games wrong in advance. Therefore, now we're already like an hour almost in. Moves have been made. That might increase my chances. Predictions. Wojtaszek, Wang Yue. It's a tough one already. But you could name every single result. I would not call it ridiculous. So I shall say draw. 0-1 wouldn't surprise me. 1-0 also wouldn't surprise me. Therefore, I say draw. Nispiano, MVL. I'm also saying draw. This one even more pronounced after d3, d4. The bailout, I believe, will lead to mass simplifications, and Nisi will get his draw after recognizing what's up. Andreikin, Kramnik. f5 has been played by Andreikin. Very daring. It's consistent, trying to keep the position close, especially after rook e8. Doesn't want any of these ef knight d5 tricks, but it also releases any tension there was on the black center, so black can expand further with d5 and b5. White is still left looking for shelter for his king. And these h3, g4 slow plans, they just look very, very hard to get going with all hell breaking loose on every other part of the board. Also after h3 there might be this, and this is awkward. So I'm gonna predict 0-1 here. I think Andreikin has badly misplayed the opening, and Kramnik will make him pay for it. In Bluebaum, Fedoseev, e4 has happened. I'm gonna say draw, because Fedoseev is in great form. Defeated Kramnik yesterday, is a great tactician. I think he's bungled the opening and he's worse here. But I'm gonna say he will weasel his way out of it and manage to make a draw. But I dislike his position after e4, followed by bishop e3. Bluebaum does strike me to be in very good shape. a4 played by Wang Yue. Only sensible move. And after knight b6, he's gonna have a decision on his hands. Rook a2, rook a3, rook a5. Quo vadis, Mr. Rook? While we're waiting for events to develop even further, let's have a look. What shall we have a look? We could have a look at yesterday's games, even though I've already given the critical point in the Kramnik game in my introduction. The other games, they had some intrigue, but not enough to warrant a big-time recap. But yeah, this is yesterday's Kramnik Fedoseev, where I was critical of Fedoseyev's opening play, but he later said he checked out all of this with Khalivman in detail, he wasn't surprised. And the computer also said that he played alright. So, lesson learned for me, you can get away with playing e6 and b5 here, which to my eyes still looks strange, but Fedoseev seemed to know what he's doing. And one big point of his play was that after this bishop g5, you don't have to go passive, but you can sacrifice a pawn by going knight to e4. Kramnik was in no mood to accept this pawn sacrifice, which objectively might have been best, and then allow black to have compensation after knight a5, followed by knight c4, for example. With the two bishops and the active knight, there is some compensation, even though you could certainly argue white's side of this as well, with a solid structure and an extra pawn. But Kramnik did not want to play like that. He played a4 when I was expecting b4, but b takes a4. Perfectly natural move too. White once again decided to add fuel to the flames. Not going rook takes a4 with rough equality, but c4 trying to open the position. And now in the ensuing complications, just turned out that Fedoseev outcalculated Kramnik, I would guess. He played the very natural move and very human move, knight to d8, protecting his both of these soft spots. And here, white probably should have played bishop to d3 or rook takes a4. Went knight e3, hinting at jumps, once again, very aggressive, also hinting at queen takes a4 check. But after knight e3, bishop f4, all of a sudden, a lot of white pieces are hanging. Bishop g5 is a threat, and if this knight were to just retreat, this, followed by queen takes c4, would work. There was still the option of staying in the game by going queen takes a4, which I guess Kramnik just discarded because of bishop c6. But after bishop c6, and yes, it's me reading out computer lines, there is the move knight to d5, when the drama continues. I don't think white is better here, but this might have been enough to equalize. Here he actually could be better, because a6 is a little weak. So that was an option. But instead, Kramnik went for broke with queen h5. And broke he went after queen h5, bishop e3. There's just not enough play. Takes, queen takes c4. It's very unclear what he missed, because none of the tricks work here. Like, he chose rook takes e6, when king f8 just won the game for black. But I've mentioned this earlier, knight takes e6 also looked winning. Queen f7, king d8, knight e6, king c8. There is no real follow-up, while black is a rook up. It's less clear-cut than king f8, but also good for black. So yeah, not Kramnik's best day at the office. And here after king f8, he's just a piece down. I think he went on to give another piece, just to stop himself from resigning. But Fedoseev defended with great ease and won the game. Fedoseev keeps winning rating left and right. The MVL game, I have since yesterday been informed that all of this was still following a game by Wojtaszek, where he played rook b5, c4 in the previous game was slightly worse. But this time he took on rook b5, so he already had experience with this position. And MVL did not manage to put him under pressure. Then later on, yeah, Radek was a pawn up and had a serious advantage, played this very nice maneuver, bishop b4, a5, b6. But did not manage to convert it, and MVL, one of the most resourceful guys out there, tremendous calculator, tremendous defender, managed to hold the draw. That's it. Any big developments? Wang Yu did choose the most solid continuation, but possibly not the best, by taking this a2 pawn. And after queen b3, he went back to a7. But now he's probably a little worse, no? White just takes the pawn, knight c6, you go somewhere. And then you try to finish development ASAP. Bishop b5, followed by short castles. If this pawn remains on the board, white is better. In Nisi MVL, knight takes d5, queen d5 has been played. And earlier I said bishop c3, but you can probably just take here as well, no? Takes. Looks like another way to simplify the position. Maybe bishop h3. Takes. Takes. Bishop c3. Looks like a drawn rook endgame. Like, you don't want to spoil your pawn structure like this. But white is active enough with rook d7 that this should end peacefully. So Nisi has to be a bit cautious how he wants to simplify. It looks like both bishop c3 or knight takes d4 or bishop e3 should lead to equality. Yeah, Andreikin's position does not look good. He's bungled the opening quite badly. And yeah, I was first complimentary. Complimentary? That's not the word. I was complimenting him for going for the move f4. But yeah, no longer a fan. This queen e2, a3, f5 mixture seems very risky. Kramnik started with b5, just grabbing the max amount of space, making sure this king can never go here because of b4. And yeah, it's not pleasant. Typical plan would be to go h3, g4, but h3 always runs into knight h5 here as well, followed by knight takes g3. Therefore, Andreikin, I don't know, maybe knight d2 and g4, but it all looks highly shady. Maybe this is how he has to play. Now push the g pawn, pretend this is some sort of King's Indian. Hope for the best. Odd opening. Bluebaum versus Fedoseev. Does he have a nickname yet? Can we call him Fed? Here come the Feds. Roger Fedoseev. I don't know. I'm not good at nicknames. And rook e8 played. I'm dreaming of pushing f4, e5. But I might have to curb my enthusiasm a little here, because f4, queen d4, king h2. I'm not sure about this. No, you can't take the pawn. I was going to say you can't take the pawn. The little bar disagrees with me. Taking a piece. So f4 is playable. You have to do something like this, which maybe is not so clear. If I can't smoothly bring my pieces out behind these passed pawns, f4 might be a bit too early. And you could make a case for playing more quietly and then pushing it. Because the white structure, this 4 versus 3 advantage, remains on the board. f3 I have a slightly uneasy feeling about, because it weakens the dark squares. But I'm guessing that's hardly a priority in this position. Some decisions to be made for Bluebaum. The move you want to play bishop e3, now knight takes e4. Does seem to be possible. So that's the one we can't play. Even though we would really like to. What's going on in the chat? Der Henker is having a live meltdown. He's saying, I didn't take my pills today and a typo equals typefoo. Typhood? I'm confused. Bram van Einatten is not a big fan of Andreikin's play. Yep, neither am I. Or neither am I so far, I should say. I'm a fan of Andreikin's play in general. He's played bishop e3 now, and that could make Kramnik wonder why he started with b5, not d5. If you start with d5, there's never any bishop e3 to worry about because of this d4 pawn fork. But maybe Kramnik thought bishop e3 is nothing to worry about either way. And he actually welcomes it and wants to play d5 now. That is also possible. Because while white is busy trying to get his king out of the way, black has completed his mobilization, like bishop a6 or bishop b7. b4 is looming. Still fairly unpleasant for white, I would say. Yeah, Andreikin experiments that probably won't be rewarded. Queen b6 also a good move. Because here there's still no short castles. White, yeah, needs to get his king out of the way, while black is so close to just blowing the position wide open. Once again, bishop a6 followed by b4. Bishop a6, so that after b4 we can go ab, ab. And there's no rook hanging on a8. Just looks terribly strong. This might not end well at all. What else can we talk about? Like, I blame Kramnik. He really took away our main storyline for this Dortmund event. Will Kramnik reach the #1 spot? Now the answer is, that's very, very unlikely. So what we're left is a bunch of very good chess players. The German #1, Nisipianu, the world number... Where are you, MVL? World number 8? World number 8, Maxim Vasyla Graf. World number 4, Vladimir Kramnik. World number... Where you at, Radek? 26, Radek Wojtaszek. World number 48, Wang Yue. And I'm not sure about Blue Bomb, but since he's in my neighborhood, that's normally like 150. And that's, yeah, like the... What do you call this? The nosebleed seats of the world rankings. But Blue Bomb, world number 3 in the junior ranks or something like that. He's still very young. So we have, and of course, Fedoseev, 2726. That makes him, in the live rating, he's 28. Climbing up the ranks. And yeah, this might be his breakthrough tournament, where he introduced himself to a larger audience, the millions of people watching this very show, where it's my last day alone. It's also the last day of a free show, because we will bring it in. I can't even finish that sentence. We will bring a talent that belongs behind a paywall. Lawrence Trent himself, the voice of chess, will be joining me from round number 3 on, together with hopefully our boy Peter Svidler, who will chime in on Skype and share his wisdom. I saw there were a lot of questions for Peter in the chat. We will have him starting from round number 3, hopefully via Skype from parts unknown. But Lawrence Trent we will have right here. So if you're not a premium Chess24 member, I want to see that, go premium. If you get an annual subscription, you get one of these very exciting signed mugs, I'm being told. That is the promotion. Of course, I don't have a graphic for it, because I don't know how to bring these things up, but there is a mug to be gained if you become a premium member now. You also get access to all these video series, like my new series, my 4-part opus on how to deal with 1d4. The repertoire is completed and not refuted yet, as far as I know. After Queen b6, which was played, Andreikin has played Knight d1. He does not want to take here. He's expecting b4 to blow the position open anyway, so Knight d1, probably a good decision. But, nice it is not. d5, now that this knight has moved. e4 is weak, and you better hope there is no direct breakthrough, which maybe there isn't, but you don't want to play like this. With white, it's not a pretty sight. Then again, if white manages to stabilize, go castles and go g4, things could be... I'm only partly pausing because I don't know the right words in English. It's more that I'm not sure about the correct assessment, like how bad things really are. I struggle to evaluate. Like, let's say bishop a6 and then castle and even some random move like whatever, rook d8. We still can't go g4 because of knight takes g4 and some tricks. But for black, as you can see by me making a random move like rook d8, it's also not completely obvious how you break through. Therefore, maybe there is some hope for Andreikin, even though I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. I was told that before you criticize somebody, you should try to walk a mile in their shoes. And that way, when you criticize them, you're a mile away and you have your shoes. But since I'm 300 kilometers away from Dortmund, I see no way of getting a hold of Andreikin's shoes in the near future. Which is not that bad news, because I wouldn't want to be in them right here, right now. I hope you follow my logic. Nisipiano has decided not to mess around, but just take on d4. Immediately, queen d4, bishop c6. Probably hoping for rook b8, when bishop f4. I guess it's still not too late for bishop h3, but this looks like white has the more pleasant side of a draw. Well, bishop h3 seems to maintain the momentum. And this is the line I looked at earlier. Bishop a8, bishop f1. And after king f1, rook a8, bishop c3. Since b2 is hanging, it's a bit awkward. This looks like black would have the more pleasant side of a draw, because black's pawn structure is better here. But with this rook's looming arrival to d7, white will get rid of enough pawns or have enough activity that you can't really lose this position. Something like this, whatever, a5, takes. It's just a draw. We know it's just a draw. That's all there is. Where's the action today? Probably Kramnik's game is our best bet. Wojtaszek, Wang Yue. Wojtaszek spending a surprising amount of time before taking on b4, which he couldn't have done before, because before there was no pawn on b4. Yeah, before I beat this joke into the ground, let's have a look at what happens after queen b4. Earlier I talked about knight c6, queen b2. It's also the option of trying to pin this and then winning the pawn with knight bd7. Maybe that's what bothers Wojtaszek. But nah, he can just get out. Get out of the way. So I don't think that's it either. And yeah, he does agree with my logic. Maybe he just needed he just needed to hear that. Because all the players, they are wearing headphones and they are getting my live commentary right into their ears. People have decided that I'm normally so far away from the truth that that is not a competitive advantage at all. And they feel like it's actually an added distraction that should make life a little tougher for the players, therefore creating more blunders, more decisive results, more excitement. And in case you're not sure, yes, I lied about all of that. What happened here? Bishop h3, they didn't play my line. I didn't take on a8, he went bishop c3 immediately. Ah, this is cleaner actually. Queen d1, rook fd1. This rook escapes being taken. And now after rook a d8. The position is even more drawn than the one I was looking at earlier. And that is the goal. You want the position to be more drawn than slightly worse but drawn. And here it's just drawn. It's not even slightly worse. So yeah, Dieter mishandled the opening, but understood that quickly. This is not chickening out trying to make a draw against a stronger player. It is bungling the opening and then pulling the emergency brake before it's too late. So yeah, I've already praised him for this decision to play d4 before black manages to get fully mobilized, when white would just have a seriously worse position. Good job, Nisipiano, and I'm not sure if there is any anti-draw rules in Dortmund, but I would say a draw is imminent in this one because of the equal material let's check back in with the chat, where I'm being informed of Game of Thrones coming back. Pramod, since I'm ignoring his questions as usual, is seeking input from Colin. But Colin doesn't know about Sopiko's video series. But we'll keep you posted, Pramod. There's also questions about Svidler Max. He won't be in the office, so we can't make him sign a lot more. I think we still have a little reserve of Svidler Max. And if you specify that wish, I'm sure he's gonna stop by at some point in the office again. We can probably make that happen, as long as supplies last. But I'm not sure how many we have left with the Svidler Max, so I'm not sure. Yuri777 wonders, what is the feeder rating of Jan? The feeder rating of Jan is 2640, which is why Jan is following the game of his compatriot Bluebomb very closely, because Bluebomb is 2642, which is only 2 points away. So close to my rating. Bluebomb, if your queen were to disappear, who would overtake you in the highly prestigious German rating list? This guy. I'm joking. Half joking. What else is there? Pramod MVS watched Lawrence's commentary in Chennai, then came to know that he joined C24. Followed him all the way. Pramod does strike me as somebody who would follow people all the way. De Rigueur is saying, hello everyone. Hello De Rigueur. Any game promising tough battle already? Yeah, I think this game is promising maybe even an uphill battle for Andreikin. Even though I think his situation is sort of improved over the last move and a half. I have a feeling maybe Kramnik should have started with d5, just never to allow bishop e3. Make the going even tougher. But yeah, this promises to be interesting. This promises to be drawn any minute, so technically not that interesting. This could heat up, or yeah, could still spice up, even though I have a feeling it will stabilize and Radek will just be slightly better with Van Yue trying to defend. And the Bluebomb, for the sake of game, Bluebomb played rook e1, which is not ideal, because in an ideal world you want this rook on f1 supporting the march of the penguins, the e and f pawns. But it still carries a fairly direct threat of f4 and pushing further. While rook e1 also helps with, let's say, bishop e6, white goes f4, queen somewhere check. Now we can go bishop e3, since this rook covers the e3 square. So, I don't dislike this decision, just covering the pawn. Maybe black should go for tactics, trying to fight against f4 by knight bd5, even though that should not equalize either. Bluebomb in the driver's seat. Exxon Sloofy asks, what do you think about the game between Andreikin and Kramnik? Who is better in both now? What do you mean by who is better in both now? Who's in the better boat now? Who's better in bad now? I don't think that changes with the position on board. I think I've just given my opinion that Kramnik is still better, but it looks like at least there's some hope for Andreikin to stabilize and make it out of the opening. On the board now, my apologies. Yeah, on the board I think Kramnik is probably better now. Neuromancer asks, have you seen the FIDE World Cup qualifiers? I have not. But I'm sure it's many people from the European Championships and the other continental championships, the wildcards, the ratings. The big question is always, will all of the top stars show up in the World Cup? Will Kramnik play? Will Carlsen play? Will Fabian Caruana play? Will Wesley So play? I think all of them have some incentive to play, and the schedule allows them to. So I have a feeling it could be a very star-studded affair. But normally it gets more interesting with the World Cup once you know who's accepted the ticket and who's turned it down. Dutch Defender says only black music. Not sure what that's referring to. Yuri777 says, Jan, you are unrated in rapid chess. I'm a very strong unrated rapid chess player. I won a rapid tournament ahead of Bluebomb the other day. These are the chess successes I have to brag about now. But yeah, I guess unrated in rapid chess means I've never played a rated rapid tournament. Like in my days, we didn't have rapid ratings. It was all the same. And you would play more freely in rapid because it was not rated. Well, now there's this pressure of keeping your rating in blitz, in rapid, in all of these things. I don't like it. Jorge82 asks, will Gustafsson play the World Cup? No, Gustafsson will not play the World Cup. He did not qualify. He qualified twice, and he likes speaking about himself in the third person. Once he made it past the first round, once he lost in the first round. This time around, he did not qualify. He did not try. Therefore, Gustafsson will not play the World Cup. GM Aryan is praising Colin for great articles. I could not agree more. Check out the news section on Chess24. Best writer in the chess business. Consistently great tournament reports by Colin. What else is there? Lucius Sergius Catalina is saying, Jan, a question on chess broadcasting. If you were to comment the first round of the World Cup, would you focus on evenly matched games between 2-6-80 or on top 10 players clobbering IAMs in the 120 seats? I don't think either one draws that much attention. Like honestly, normally you gotta cover what the top guys are doing. You wanna know what Magnus is doing, right? Even though you know he's gonna beat a 2400 player, should he participate. And then you try to have a look around for interesting games. But normally the World Cup, for me as a spectator, as a chess... I was gonna use a dirty word. As a fan of chess stars. And it does get more exciting with like the 1/16 finals. Once they've kicked out the putzers like me and the big guns start playing each other. The World Cup is spectacular with the mini matches. The rapid, the blitz, the drama, the emotion. Like Peter Svidler has had a fantastic event last year, but yeah, lost in the finals in dramatic. Last time it was 2 years ago. I don't know things, but lost in the finals in dramatic fashion. And yeah, as a viewer, that was spectacular. GM Aryan is asking, Peter has won the World Cup? Question mark. Jan, he did win, right? He did win, and then he finished second next time around. It's pretty good. Aristide is asking, how big was your dad's party, Jan? It was nice, but yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it much. It was nice. My dad's doing well. Tigray is saying, excellent Steve McQueen haircut. Kudos. Is that me? I like Steve McQueen. I wish I could look more like him. I'm not sure I have his haircut, but thanks. I haven't watched Papillon for a while. Fantastic movie. Bullet. All the good stuff. Cincinnati Kid. I'm a big McQueen head. And Pramod, as usual, is not making much sense, but that doesn't stop him. Thanks for hanging in there, Pramod. He's saying Peter has to prepare for Wei Yi from now onwards. Yeah, I think he even prepared for him in the past when they met. Mohith is wondering, Jan, are you trying to break into the Elite Grandmasters list? I'm trying as hard as you can by playing one tournament per year, the Thailand Open, and then sitting here commentating. No, when I play I want to improve, but technically I've been pretty much retired for the last 6 years. And I'm very old, so I'm not going to break into the Elite Grandmaster list. Pramod MVS is saying your haircut information was revealed in a recent show, Jan. What information? That I got a haircut? I'm very confused. Carlson Superlight is saying, Jan, who are your picks to finish top 2 in the Grand Prix? I have no idea. I haven't followed that at all, to be honest. Jorge82 is asking, will Bluebomb take the knight with the pawn? Let's look at the position. No, he will not, because then Fedoseev would take the rook with the queen. And that would be a bad transaction. You would have taken the knight with the pawn, but you would have lost the rook. So not going to be able to do it. What I believe you should do, I briefly touched on knight bd5, is just to play bishop d2, connecting the rooks. So now you're threatening to go ed5. You're also ready to meet knight c3 by bishop c3. Knight b4 might look like a nice little jump, but it runs into a little trick, which I call bishop f7 check, followed by queen b3. And then this knight is loose. So I believe Fedoseyev's point is to go knight f4 here, stopping this pawn from moving forward. And when I have a feeling white is still better, but at least he got his useless knight from b6 to partake in the action all the way to f4. The Fed is not gonna make it easy. Roger Fedoseyev hanging in there. No moves made here by Monsieur Kramnik yet. Sometimes these positions can be deceiving. Like, it looks really bad for white. Maybe it doesn't. But to me, it looked really bad for white. But if you manage to get the king out of the way and then push your g-pawn, as everybody who's lost some games against the King's Indian, you know that these things can turn if you don't manage to demolish the queenside in time. And there is still some aggressive potential in the white structure as well. However, in the King's Indian, normally the center would be closed. Normally it would be something like this when this plan is looming. While here, black has zero incentive to close the center, making life easier for white. And these pawn marches are normally tougher to make happen if there's still the option of opening the position up. Let's say here I would go DE and possibly B4. And it's hard to believe that I will get checkmated by Goran the g-pawn, while the rest of the board is on fire. Therefore, Kramnik still has a good position. But Andreikin looks poised to make it to move 20, probably even move 30, which I was not sure about after rook e8. Yeah, as I said, this position was doomed to peter out very, very soon. Ever since Nicipiano, and I've praised him for this enough for one show, understood that if he allows MVL to develop here, he's worse, and he decided to bail out with d4. The tactics work just well enough that white can simplify, get rid of all the material here. That is what happened, and the players found a way to shake hands. Yep. Probably neither side will be too happy or too upset about this game. But over it is. Blue Bombs played bishop d2. Yeah, that was the obvious choice. Fedoseyev will play knight f4, and then Blue Bomb has to decide if you want to take this knight, if you want to challenge it by going knight e2. This will be decision time. What other wise questions do we have in the chat? GM Aryan is asking, are you positional player or tactical? Jan. I don't know. Does anybody know the answer to that question? Are you positional player or tactical? I just try to make moves. Like, I don't know. I don't think you can think in such categories. I'm a tactical player who pretends to be positional because of his rabbit-hearted nature. But really, I do play for tricks mainly. Pramod NVS is saying, whomever plays Vlad should get a rest day next day. This tournament will go on for a couple of weeks. What do you want me to say, Pramod? Yes, good idea. No, wouldn't work. Haha, funny. I don't get it. Knight f4 has been played by Fedoseyev. Yeah, that was the only move that made sense. As I said, now Blue Bomb has a decision to make. Bishop f4 is a move. Knight e2 is a move. Rook e3 could be a move to go rook f3 and to just stop any shenanigans on h3. Rook a d1 is a move that would always make sense, just developing, fighting for the open file. So there's plenty of sensible options, and I wouldn't be surprised if Blue Bomb Took a bit of time here. White is better, there's no question about that. But which move to make is not particularly obvious to me. This position I should try to figure out what's going on, but it's so hard. Let's see how we got here. Queen b3, rook to a7 back, queen b4, and Wang Yu does not go knight c6, but goes knight bd7. Interesting. He does not decide not to blockade this pawn and win the tempo against the queen, probably judging the knight on c6 is misplaced, would get hit later by bishop b5. Instead, he's asking the question, Mr. Knight b6, what do you think about your future? What's your 5-year plan? Where do you see yourself? You can't allow knight takes b6 under any circumstances, so really the question is, do you take here or do you take here? This looks a little slow. Now bishop takes and rook comes here, queen a5, queen a8, rook b8, now knight d7. I don't know, it looks a little slow. Even though, once again, if white manages to stabilize and the c-pawn stays alive, white shall be better. But why can't we take the bishop? This looks natural. Knight c8, queen c8. Now some developing move, d3, e2. Je ne sais quoi. White is better, no? Maybe black could try to break the center up instantly with some e5 action. That looks insanely risky. Bishop f5. And maybe it works. Okay, so that's probably what they're calculating, stuff like this. And where the bishop should go to be best equipped for this e5 break. Maybe bishop e2 is better. Maybe bishop b5 is better. Will be very sharp if Radek manages to consolidate, like get the bishop out and castle. Without anything happening, he's seriously better. But it could be that Wang Yu is in time to undermine the white pawn chain. While that happens, like this line, bishop d3, e5, d, e, knight c5, all of a sudden it really hurts white that he hasn't castled yet. Because knight d3 check could be a bit of an issue. By the way, I'm not sure, I've pointed that out yesterday, but I feel it's useful. We have this little new feature that whenever it's me making up moves, you see the green light. Probably should be a red light, but it is a green light. That means this is not the actual position in the game. This is Jan analyzing. Well, if we go to the position in the game, then the green light disappears. So by staring at the upper corner, you can now determine, is this the position on the board? Is this analysis? Is this heaven for everyone? Just look if there's a green light, showing you the way. Kramnik has played de4, opening the center immediately. If de, I'm very happy as black playing bishop a6, hinting at b4. Therefore, I would expect Andreikin to try to recapture with the knight. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Knight e4. Once again, de bishop a6. I'm stoked. So bishop e4 comes to mind. White is still worse after I move like knight f6, but probably less worse. Oh, we have an excellent question. I'm sure it's excellent. By Grandelius in the chat. Grandelius, Grandmaster Niels Grandelius from Sweden, who's had a tough couple of weeks. Did not win the Swedish championship. Did not win the Nordic championship. Had to, handle a lot of abuse by a French peer of his, who shall remain nameless. So let's see what Niels has to say. Do you think Nisi is happy with 2 draws from his 2 whites? Probably +1 would have been better. I believe he has a point there, because +1 would at this point mean that he's leading the tournament on 1.5 out of 2. While with 1 out of 2, he's tied with Fedoseev, who has 1 out of 1, and there's people that can still overtake him. Then again, 50% is much better than -1, and even though he had 2 whites, he had to play 2 very strong players. MVL is 2791, which is almost 2800. And Bluebaum is very young, so his 2642 might not be representative of his true chess strength. Because, Niels, you know how it is with these kids. They're often underrated until they grow up, and then they're like 25, and they're no longer underrated, and they have to find their way in the hard knock life that is professional chess. Colin is pointing out, fun fact, Nisipiano drew all 7 of his games in Dortmund last year. So that's 9 Dortmund draws in a row. The sad thing is, you can do as well as you like in Dortmund. People always only remember the spectacular losses. Like, all I remember from Nisi's Dortmund appearances is his last round loss to Caruana in the, what was it? The Evans Gambit. And Haima is pointing out that +1 is better than 50%. So Niels, yeah, we've discussed this topic plenty, but I believe Niels agrees that normally +1 is much better than 50%, but 50% is still okay, while -1 is really bad. -2 is really, really bad. Am I stating your opinions on these topics correctly, Niels? Looks like Andreikin agrees with my expert opinion that DE4 bishop a6 is bad and could pave the road towards -1. He doesn't want that and therefore goes knight takes e4. Putting the ball back in Kramnik's park. Does Kramnik have his own park? Where does Kramnik live now? In Geneva? I don't think Kramnik can afford a park in Geneva, even though he's certainly done very well for himself. He has this entire tournament named after him. No joke, this is the Vladimir Kramnik tournament. The 25th time Vladimir Kramnik participates in the Dortmund Sparkassen chess meeting. I think his point is to take. After DE, he shall be happy. And after bishop e4, knight f6 shall be played. And he's also happy. But he's probably not that much better. And Friegler confirms Kramnik lives in Geneva. And Friegler met him there. Where does he live? Can you reveal his exact address, Friegler? If not, can you find out? Can you stalk him a little bit? Next time you meet him, follow him home, take some pictures, post them here in the chat. No, don't do that. Chess Broker is asking, Jan, would you like to play for the German team in the next Chess Olympiad? I don't know. I haven't been so active recently, but I also haven't been asked to be on the German team for 5 years. Therefore, I don't know. I will have to have a conversation, see how it fits into my schedule, to their schedule, like how much preparation time and so on. But of course, playing for your country is always an honor for me at least, so I would consider it very, very seriously. But I haven't been asked for a long time. Anders 2400 is saying, are you guys making fun of GM Grandelius? +1 after 2 games means a win and a draw. 50% means 2 draws or 1 win and 1 loss. So of course, +1 is better than 50%. Okay, I'm just waking up, so it will take me a few minutes to understand the chat. First of all, thanks for pointing out the math behind the +1 versus 50% discussion. And I think we all agree now that +1 is better than 50%. Even though Anders 2400, you will have a hard time refuting the claim that 50% is better than -1. Because -1 means either a loss and a draw, or a draw and a loss. While 50% means either a win and a loss, or 2 draws. So by definition, 50% is better than -1. Therefore, when we're discussing this 50% is worse than +1 thing, we should also keep in mind that it's better than -1. In my opinion, at least. And I'm not sure how Niels feels about this. But if he wants to chime in again, he can elaborate. It's a bit of a running gag between us, which I will beat into the ground. But 50%, I believe Nisipiano is quite happy with. It stems from Niels and me both working for Magnus Carlsen during the World Championship match, where of course there were many discussions about 50%. Yeah, it's not great. It would be better to be on +1. But it's better than being on -1. Then when you are on -1, you really don't want to be on -2. So we know that topic. Anders 2400 says, Jan's humor, I understand even when I'm sleepy. Cheers, Jan. What are you talking about? I've explained this topic to the best of my knowledge. There is the good old question that we've also beaten into the ground. That's why this is getting tougher. It's not me being alone. It's like after, how long am I doing this now? Like 3-4 years of doing non-stop, or doing a lot of chess commentary, which I enjoy greatly. But we've talked about all these topics a lot. Like, is there a top 100 player with a tattoo? I don't think there is. Long discussions were held about it. We still haven't found anybody coming forward. Colin is posting some help with the Jan Niels strategy discussions. I'm not sure. There is also a comment in the chat by another Grandmaster, anonymous Grandmaster, saying, who would dare making fun of GM Grandelius? I don't know, like I've met some hostile French people that would relentlessly bully GM Grandelius. But in general, I do agree. GM Grandelius never has a bad word for anybody and therefore does not deserve to be made fun of, especially since he has a very good grasp of the mathematics of chess tournaments, especially matches. And he's chiming in. He's saying, I thought I had it all sorted out after the match. This is Niels Grandelius. +1 is better than 50%, which is better than -1, which is correct. But recently I won a tournament on +1 and then didn't win the next one on +6. Can you please explain, Jan? That is indeed odd. First of all, let's talk about the number of rounds. This tournament that you won on +1. Was it by any chance what's this called? The Siegermann tournament, which only has 5 rounds. So you could not have won that tournament on +6 because it's impossible to amass +6 in a mere 5 rounds. Is that correct, Grandmaster Grandelius? Secondly, the tournament which you scored +6, was it more rounds? Was it 9 rounds maybe? Did you not win it because the field was horribly weak, so that other people could also amass +6? And since the field was so uneven, the few strong players on the field were just having a field day, no pun intended, with the rest of the field. Meaning, I don't know what the rules were. Maybe they only allowed like Nordic players to participate and then they held some other Nordic championships at the same time, so that some of the strongest Nordic players were not able to participate. Therefore, you would have to amass maybe +7 to win it. Well, in the tournament we had +1. Possibly there were like other fantastic players like Badur Jobava, a regular of the Grand Chess Tour, that also scored +1. I'm not sure if that explanation satisfies you, Niels, but I do agree that it's a lot of very complicated math. Shall we analyze this game in more detail? Maybe move by move. C5, inviting E4, but MVL as the premier Najdorf player of our days. Arguably, some would say Anish Giri, is probably not afraid of that. C4, knight f6, surprise for Nishimiya. He expects knight c6, followed by e5, which MVL normally plays. Knight c3, playable, but if you play this, you better have something against d5. If not, go d4, like I always do. Knight c3, d5, takes, knight d5. Don't go d4 here, transpose the Grünfeld. Go e4. But not having gone e4, having played g3, you have to know something about this line after castles, bishop, or maybe even play some weird move like queen a4 here. Or h4. Didn't Svidler play h4 in this position? Isn't this famous Svidler Caruana game from the candidates tournament? Anyway, he played d3, bishop d2. I don't like that maneuver. Castles, b6. Now, if you give black one more move, black is just better. Therefore, d4. I don't want to look at the rest. And Feggy is saying in the chat, Je n'ai pas compris. I would love to continue that conversation in French, but a certain slightly rude French grandmaster made me promise that I should no longer speak any French on this program because it makes it hard to watch, thereby crushing my attempts to master the French language, the beautiful language that is French, which would come in tremendously helpful to communicate, but he's broken my spirit. I no longer dare to speak any French. Therefore, yeah, we can't continue that discussion. Can we continue the discussion on the Andreikin-Kramnik game? Kramnik, yeah, decided to go for this setup, which makes sure he's never gonna get into any trouble, because now, since we're fighting for the e4 square, it's unrealistic for white to ever push his g-pawn up the board. But it also feels like he's maybe allowed Andreikin to almost equalize, which wasn't necessary if you don't go for simplification so easily. I still prefer black, but here after knight e4, d4, all of a sudden there's not a lot of pieces left on the board. If you, let's say, play f6 to avoid any breakthroughs here. This feels like it could simplify and end peacefully, which would be a great result for Andreikin after he bungled that opening. a3. Why a3? Don't get it. Brooklyn Bobby is asking, do you play the French defense better than you speak French? I do not. I have never played the French defense in my life, and I will never do that thing. It's the touching story of me promising my first chess coach, who hated the French defense, not the French people, that I would never employ that opening. Aristide is saying, slowly but surely it is turning towards Radio Jan. That's the sad thing. Before Radio Jan hit the scene, I used to be funny sometimes. Now whenever I say something that is not, oh, the pawn could go here, people are saying, lol, he's turning into Radio Jan. This creation of mine has broken my ability to be funny in my own right. It's very sad. It's not a Jekyll and Hyde, it's more a Frankenstein's monster situation with the guy. And back to chess. Knight bd5, bishop d2, knight f4, and Bluebone decides to take the easy way out. Not really, but this is a very sensible decision. Just getting rid of this active knight that just moved twice. Take it, go rook d1, and white still has his 4 versus 3. Still has potential to push his pawns up the board. Well, the black majority really hasn't done anything yet, the 3 versus 2 black majority on the queen side. Therefore, it's still an unpleasant situation for Fedoseev. He's trying to fight for the dark squares, going knight d7, intending to bring this knight all the way to e5. Rook e3, played by Bluebone, and I have a feeling Fedoseev will realize that now if he executed his plan by going knight e5, is to be very, very cautious not to get crushed by these active pawns. Brooklyn Bobby says, I live in France. That's probably why he's called Brooklyn Bobby. Named after the famous Paris neighborhood, Brooklyn. Perpetual stalemate says, patriotic French people always have a white flag on hand? And Rudy is praising me for my French. That was, he had a point there. That's the saddest thing. People praising me for my very, very mediocre French. That makes it even worse. Yeah. And Anders 2400 is asking, why doesn't MVL play French? Is he not patriotic? The thing is, when everybody has to play their country's openings, like some guys will really be much worse off than others. Like, okay, first of all, there's already tricky questions, like can only people from Berlin play the Berlin Wall, or would all Germans be allowed to play the Berlin Wall? And then Yeah. If you're English, can you play both the English with white, one c4, and the London? Or do you have to play the London if you're from London, but the English if you're from other parts of the country? It's really, yeah, coming to a lot of strange discussions there. And of course there's a big problem for the Dutch, because if you force them to play the literal Dutch, the worst opening on earth, one f5, you really stop being competitive as a chess country. And you can't punish the Dutch that harshly for having invented that horrible opening. That is f5, that we make them play it every game. Therefore, I don't think it has anything to do with being patriotic. If you're French, and don't play the French, and we should not force people to do it. MVL can continue representing the island of Sicily instead of France with the black pieces. Anders 2400. Anders sounds very Swedish, and you're defending Niels publicly. So I'm not so sure about your Trinidad story, even though you've brought this up in the past. He says, we need a Trinidad opening. The good news is, you can probably invent some crappy opening and then call it a Trinidad opening. And you might get away with it. Der Henker is saying, if you play the Spanish against the Dutch, I think the Dutch will survive easily. That doesn't make sense, because you can't play the Dutch against the Spanish. Spanish would require you to go 1 e4, and the Dutch can only be played against 1 d4. So, yeah, not following your logic there. What has happened? Wow, Radek did take on d7, not on c8. Bishop takes, bishop d3. And I think I gave some speech and then changed my mind half speech here. That if white manages to develop, he's going to be slightly better. But if black manages to bother him, he's not going to be slightly better. Something along those lines. In general, as the famous chess coach Vladimir Chuchilov would say, that the static balance, is that him or Dorfman? I'm not sure. Maybe this is Dorfman's concept. That the static evaluation favors white because of his passed pawn. Therefore, black has to play dynamically to maintain the balance, which means you can't just chill here with black and play rook e8. If white manages to castle put a knight here, white will be seriously better. Therefore, black has to act quickly. Play rook a4, queen d2, knight e4, and hope for the best. And maybe that way you shall maintain the balance. Bishop e7, take here. Did I blunder somebody's pieces along the way? No, this all made sense. Boom! And yeah, black is probably alright because d4 is falling. And that line might have some relevance even, no? How did I do this? Here. Queen should probably go to d2, not to allow queen a5 check. Knight e4, bishop e7, knight d2, and if bishop e4, de, maybe this is what Radek wants. But you better be sure you can get away with this, because your king is still in the center. Bishop b5, key move. And I would not be very thrilled with my king in the center. So, once again, using the good old rule of thumb, if you're worse statically, you have to play dynamically. We managed to equalize. We could also have used the good old rule of thumb, try to make the best moves in the position. Normally that leads to the same result. Perpetual Stalemate is saying the Swedish opening, aka IKEA opening, involves assembling your chair and chessboard first. Yeah, but the good news is they give you this little device that can help you, like, assembling the chair, right? It's not like they have you do it all by yourself. Is there a Swedish opening? Isn't it some bad line of the Spanish? Isn't that the Swedish? I could be wrong about that. Let me Google it. Maybe it's the Stockholm variation? Or maybe it's my Stockholm syndrome making me invent all these things. Nah, it doesn't look like there's a Swedish opening. So you guys would probably have to play the Scandinavian defense, since you don't have an opening of yourself in Sweden. Berlin defense isn't efficient against Russian openings. Once again, doesn't make sense because both the Berlin and the Russian or the Petrov are defenses they can employ here. They can't be used against each other. Ulf Hammerstorm is saying there is a Stockholm variation in the Tarrasch. Yeah, but I don't think that's been established. It also popped up here in the Google search. I just did. But if it's a subline of the Tarrasch, which nobody plays to begin with, I don't think we should hold the Swedes to that. There's also the Nordic Gambit, that's true. So you couldn't play the Scandinavian and the Nordic Gambit. It's a bit like, yeah, the eligibility for Swedish players. They can play in the European Championship, in the Nordic Championship, and in the Swedish Championship. And they can play the Scandinavian, the Nordic Gambit, and the Swedish line of the Tarrasch. So a lot of choices there. There's also a Danish Gambit. What's the Danish Gambit? I feel like we're not getting anywhere here. Andreikin played Rook E1. What's that about? He probably wants to put his horsey, as we say in the business, on F2. And in order to do that, he had to overprotect, as we say in the business, his E3 bishop. Well, Kramnik also played bishop B7. Isn't that a bit meh? Maybe not. Maybe he's thinking that he wants to take here and then take here and then go C5. And the bishop will be perfectly placed. By Rook E1, I have a feeling like Andreikin is slowly but surely equalizing, which is not ideal if you have the white pieces, but starting from his pretty lousy position after 9 moves, it is an achievement. Panther99 is saying there's also a Göteborg line in Najdorf. That's true. Isn't that the line all these Argentinians played in the match against, was it the Russians, and got crushed? Was that match in Göteborg? Some H6, G5 in the Najdorf, right? Hester123 is asking, Jan, do you own any antique chess sets? I do not. I own a chess set, which hasn't always been the case. And that's not that unusual. A lot of grandmasters don't own chess sets. But I have a chess set now. But I don't think it's very antique. The Henka says Danish Gambit, as I know it, is e4, e5, d4, ed, c3. And what's the Nordic Gambit? Isn't this the Nordic Gambit too? Bishop c4? I don't know. Looks like all over Scandinavia, people don't value their d-pawn very highly. Like with black, they're happy to go e4, d5, essentially giving up the d-pawn's life on move number 1. And with white, they invent all kinds of gambits trying to get rid of it too. I don't know. Why do you hate Delroy, the d-pawn, so much? Rook a4 played by Wang Yue. Looks like after queen d2, knight e4, just works fine. And Radek might have miscalculated something when he decided to go for knight d7, not knight c8. Whoa, some action in the blue bomb game. Queen g5, already a shaky move. Really looks like Fedoseev is pushing his luck very hard here. And blue bomb is saying, f4, sir, how do you like them apples? Because after queen f4, rook f3 just wins the game, since f7 would drop. And if you can't take, then white has finally achieved his mobilization, and these 4 versus 3 that I've been praising ever since they got the structure are well on their way of sweeping down the board. Queen c5 is probably the best move, pinning the rook, but white would just go queen f2. White is seriously better here. The boys running. This is bad news for Fedoseev. Fedoseev played queen e7, Doesn't change the assessment. He wants to leave the c5 square for the knight. That's his point, but still very bad. Let's say queen f2, knight c5, bishop c2. Problem is you don't have good squares for your pieces. Like after bishop e6, you will just get kicked away by f5, then e5. So you have to try to build some defensive line with f6, and then bishop e6. But here, it's really more of a stray house than a wall. e5 is coming, f5, rook d6. Oof. No, the fat's in trouble. Not saying it's beyond repair, but it is certainly really, really bad. Yeah, his opening, I don't know, this line is playable. I checked this once, but after h3, I have a feeling ed4 is already not what you're supposed to do. Maybe it was takes knight b6 immediately. I'm sorry, queen e7 is not what you're supposed to do. And after bishop b3, something certainly went wrong. Why not e4 here, then knight g5, huh? Yeah, I guess that's a problem. But yeah, if you have to go for this, this is as bad a position as you can get out of the opening in the semi-Slav. Not a good day so far for Fedoseev. Great day for MVL, who, with the black pieces, nah, he's not going to be that happy. He did outrate his opponent by 100 points, but he got an easy draw with the black pieces, has a rest day tomorrow, so he can go explore the lovely Dortmund city center. Go to Vapiano, get your dinner, and what else is there to do? There's plenty to do. I actually like the city of Dortmund. I just don't know what everything's called. Labolina is saying, you look like the Swedish comedian Björn Gustafsson. Is there more Gustafssons more famous than me? How do I have to deal with this Alex Gustafsson character? What is he doing? The MMA UFC dude? I think he's a fighter. I've never heard of Björn Gustafsson. But yeah, there's many of us. Many of the Gustafsson variety out there. Kramnikson did take on e4, de. He probably wants to take here before this knight gets to f2. My queen e3, c5, f2. The worst is over for Andreikin. Some discussion about the name Blühbaum. It's not Blaubaum, it's Blühbaum, which does not mean blue in Germany. In German. And in Germany. But the spelling is confusing, because Blühen with an H would be to blossom. Is it to blossom? Whatever the trees are doing in summer when they have all the green and white stuff and so on. I think it's blossom. But you would need an H for that. Then it would be a blossoming tree. But without the H, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, what's going on there? What's the situation, Mr. Blühbaum? Did the H get lost in family history? Or does the blue have an entirely different meaning? I don't know. And I was going to say, I'll never find out. But I probably will find out by asking one day. Flourishing tree? Flowering tree? Now that sounds wrong. Blossoming tree, that's what I said. I'm arguing with myself and with some translation sites here. But yeah, I like blossoming tree. It's much better than snack tree. Or solitary tree. Or tree mouse. There's a tree mouse? See, there's a lot to be learned on this program. I have a feeling, given the level of commentary, that I'm out of coffee, which really is fuel. And in order to restore that fuel, we shall go on a little break. When we're back, there's all the excitement that you could possibly hope for. That's not true, but there's still a few games running. In Dortmund, there's Wojciech Wang Yue, where Wang Yue has to calculate 94 now, which seems to work well. There is Andreikin versus Kramnik, where Kramnik is trying to trick him with some rook d1s, but it doesn't work yet, so probably Andreikin should equalize this. And there is Bluebaum against Fedoseev, where Bluebaum has a serious advantage against the leader of the tournament, Vladimir Fedoseev, who defeated Vladimir Kramnik the other day. If we run out of stuff to talk about, how could we ever run out of stuff to talk about? We won't, because you guys are here to keep me company. But we can also have a look at some of the Wei Yi masterpieces from Dan Xu. My favorite being his win against Yu Yangyi. Should do a video about this stuff one day. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll get more coffee. Be back soon. Enjoy your burrito.
A moment comes in chess when you need to test yourself at a different level. Chess24 Premium offers the tools that you need to reach your maximum potential, from hundreds of interactive video lessons to becoming part of the Chess24 community. You can analyze with friends or coach your students live. You get 24/7 coverage of chess news and events, access to premium analysis and commentary, and the chance to interact with grandmasters and other top players and coaches. Get advice from the best and even challenge them to a battle. Be the best chess player you can be. It's time to level up your game with Chess24 Premium membership.
What's up, dum-dums? We're back watching round number 2 of the Dortmund Super Tournament. And that was a bit of a crisis situation. I'm all alone in the office. It is Sunday after all. And I thought I had run out of coffee. I could not find any coffee beans, and the coffee machine was giving me all these flashing signs. But I found it. It's all good. I was so desperate I made myself a tea in the meantime. So I now have 2 hot beverages, but we will of course stick to coffee. Out of this disgustingly dirty mug, which you can get if you become a premium member. You can also watch the show the next couple days when it becomes a premium show, and you can, get access to thousands of videos that teach you how to be a better chess player, and you can partake in all our exciting Banter Blitz shows, where I will probably crush you. Let's face it. The show will become a premium show with the talents that should be hidden behind the paywall of Lawrence Trent and possibly Peter Svidler chiming in via Skype for the next couple days, where we can explore all the exciting narratives like who will win the tournament. That's it. Bluebaum, is he crushing Fett? I like this f5 move, not an obvious decision. I've been praising White's position for a while. And yeah, after knight b6, bishop e6 was obviously what black wanted to do. f5 just stops that, gives up some dark squares, but that is not the priority. The priority is stop black from freeing his position. And if given a free hand, of course these pawns would just crush everything in their path. But white also, if we just look at what pieces are developed, what aren't. The white army is fully out there. Well, the black rook on a8 does nothing, the bishop does nothing, and I believe it was Dr. Tartakover, or one of these smart tar guys, that said a knight on b6 is always misplaced. This is not a case of those. Knight doesn't have anywhere to go. What you would like to do with black is put this knight on e5, ASAP Rocky, but after knight d7, the tactics will no longer be your friend, as evidenced by lines such as e5, knight e4, and horsing around will become a real issue once again. Due to black's lack of development, he will get crushed here. So Bluebaum in tremendous shape, very likely to win this position because Fedoseev might be on fire, but he can't do magic, and this position is horrible for him. Bluebaum should pull this off. Mr. Kramnik is possibly still a little better, but it's no longer very serious. Bishop d4 has been played. We saw before the break that the position was already close to equal, and here after c3, takes, whatever, takes. He probably wants to scare Andreikin with rook d2, but now after rook d2, b4, all of a sudden there's bishop on b7. I was a bit skeptical about putting it there. Would start looking real silly. Therefore, yeah, I don't think that black has anything anymore. Maybe I should play, I don't know, move like c5, then knight d3, also not ideal. Looks to me like Monsieur Andreikin has equalized and shall make a draw. Or, well, has equalized, let's leave it at that. In Wojtaszek Wang Yu, knight e4 was indeed played by Wang Yu. I explained that you shouldn't allow white to develop, because then white is better because of passed pawn and all the good stuff. But knight e4 seemed to work tactically. And they played this forced sequence, indeed. Takes, and takes. When d4 is a goner, But white still has his pass pawn, so things are not as clear-cut as they seem. And after king e2, Wang Yue decided not to take, because then the c6 pawn would become a bit of a factor. You can't go bishop e8, go c7, rook c8, bishop a6 winning. So you would have to go all the way back to c8. And that's a little awkward after some rook a1 and turning rook a8. This bishop is really down on its origin square. Therefore, Wang Yue thought it more important to stabilize than grabbing a pawn. I guess Radek will now defend the pawn with king e3. And Wang Yue will face another decision. Do I have to play actively, go for some e5 counterplay? Or can we now handle this position quietly? Just bring the king. Looks equal to me. What are we discussing? Kramnik's chess style? Yeah, it has evolved over the years, hasn't it? He started out as First he was very dull, then he became a very dynamic player. World-class player, of course. Playing all these sexy Richter-Rausers and Semi-Slavs and Pelicans. Then he kind of reinvented himself in order to defeat Kasparov. He decided he had to dull that out. And he managed in the match against Kasparov, where he came up with a Berlin. And with white, he played for a win, but wasn't against exchanging queens and all that stuff. Oh, and as we all know, he won that match very convincingly in 2000 against Kasparov. After that, he's just been a major theoretician, introducing all kinds of stuff, like the Berlin, the Petrov, in the arsenal, nowadays a Semi-Tarrasch, for black, but decided to play very tightly for a while, trying to treat chess as a bit of a math problem, where with black you force a draw, and with white, you take zero risks and force an advantage by analyzing everything in like the Catalan. But recently, Kramnik has reinvented himself again, started to get a lot more flexible with white, playing one e4, playing one d4 sidelines, and quite successfully, as he was world number 2 before yesterday's game, at age 42, which is not a given by any stretch. His style change also meant that he's willing to take bigger risks now in order to play for a win, especially against weaker players. We've seen him play the Pirts and stuff like that against one e4. Therefore, yeah, the new Kramnik is less concerned with solving the chess math equation. Probably also saw guys like Carlsen, Nakamura to some extent, being willing to play different openings and take more chances. And he thought, you know what, gotta go with the times. I also have to do that. And it's worked well for him, but not in this tournament so far, where he lost the first round against the Fat, and now is probably no longer better against Andreikin. Even though I like this move he played. I was looking at rook d2, b4, which looked like nonsense, but of course c5 is a much better move. Freeing this bishop first and asking white, how would you like to handle the situation? We want to go b4? Allow my pawn to go to c4. Stop the knight coming to d3. Still hard to believe it's serious, but at least the game continues. And Kramnik, that's another thing that maybe has evolved, or maybe was always there. Always insanely optimistic about his chances, especially in press conferences. But I think he also believes part of it for real, that he always thinks he's better, and there are chances. In this position, certainly not an exception. I'm sure he's still playing for a win here. Crisildo is saying Bluebaum looks 12. I don't think that's true. Like, how old is he? 20? I don't think he looks that much younger. And Perpetual Stalemate points out that all German players around his rating look boyish, which I shall take as a compliment. Bluebaum, even if he looked 8, he'd be very happy looking at his position currently, because this is like a model game that you find in the old textbooks, how things should not go when you're black, and you would see like Lasker playing f5 double exclam. Lasker giving up the e5 square, realizing that it's more important to restrict the dark square bishop. But nowadays we've read these books, so these ideas are quite routine. For 12-year-old looking Matthias Bluebaum, not my words, words of the chat. just so I don't get in trouble with the Bluebomb family. So no, that's a big family, big chess playing family. King e3 played by Radek, or Radoslav, but I don't think anybody calls him Radoslav. Is that, if there's any experts or Polish viewers, is it like automatic that every Radoslav is Radek, like every Alexander is Sasha? Is it a similar thing? Like in Russian, where every Vladimir is Volodya, stuff like that. Every Radoslav is Radek. Many countries have that. In Spain also, right? Every Francisco is Paco. Germany, we don't have these default nicknames, or at least not many of those that I'm aware of. Fedoseev desperately looking for a way to stick around here. But his big problem really is that the natural move, by far the most natural move, is knight to d7, heading for this square. These squares, and yeah, trying to improve a situation, but just runs into too many nasty tactics. f6 is also strong. Knight takes f6, e5. He's just no longer in time. But yeah, the line I showed earlier seems the most convincing. e5, knight e4. And too many enemy, you just won't survive this. Therefore, since knight d7 doesn't work, it's just hard to come up with a move. Could play queen e5, but white can just go rook e d3, making sure nothing ever moves. Literally, you can't move anything. Anything goes to d7, we take it. The a pawn can't move because b6 is hanging. You move the c pawn, you give up this square, so rook d6 only makes things worse. It's just an unplayable position. It's not resignable, but it's really, really bad. And I expect Bluebomb to get the job done from here. This position is too good. Bit of an opening disaster by Fedoseev. If you play this line with e5, which as I said is playable, but then you gotta be more ready for h3, which is probably the second most popular move here after rook d1. Now we're continuing the short name discussion. Zauberberg is saying, no, we have it in German too. Herbert is Sepp. But let's face it, no one was named Herbert in the last 30 years. Is that fair? Maybe not, I'm not sure. But I don't think Herbert is a very popular name. I know they have this, it's a bit old school, Friedrich, Fritz and so on, but it's not really common. Well, I believe in Russian it's very common, right? Beaten by Quackers or Quackers, and Evans Gambit are asking for Radio Jan commentary. Let me make one thing clear. Whatever someone is asking for Radio Jan, I take this as a personal attack against me, the real Jan Gustafsson, telling me, no, you're too boring, we want this character with a hat and glasses, so I do not consider it praise at all. What else is there? Sepp Blatter. Yeah, Sepp Blatter not technically born in the last 30 years, right? He would be very old, 30-year-old Sepp Blatter, old looking. Andreikin decided to just ignore Kramnik's pawn push with c5, played king f1, preparing to meet rook d2 with rook e2 if it's needed. And I would guess Kramnik played f6. I said I was going to say I would guess he wants to play c4 to take the d3 square away, but he's in no particular rush because now knight d3, I'm guessing this bishop takes e4, right? Yeah, that seems to work. Therefore, what should Andreikin do? Probably just bring the king, cover this square. It's hard to believe he's not going to hold this, even though it's still a little clumsy, this setup. But I believe Andrei will have no particular problem defending this position. Maybe creating counterplay here with g4, rook g1, going for g5, especially now that black played f6. There really should not be any big winning chances. And whoa, Fedoseev has played a5. Doesn't that should lose, right? Like, the position was lost, so technically you can't make it worse. But there must be tricks against the b6 knight now. Maybe he's trying to provoke Bluebone into trickery. Because my first instinct would be like f6, and if queen f6, then rook f3 wins. While if g f6, rook g3 check picks up the knight. So that looks fairly decent, but he's probably hoping to provoke something like this, and after f6, queen e5 to continue the game, even though it looks disgusting. But yeah, this must be his point to at least keep it slightly messy, even though I still think you're lost here. With this knight hanging and having nowhere to go. Now the question is, can White just go e5? What do you want? You want to go a4 probably? But now, boom. No, this is just crushing. Yeah, he's, well, in a lost position there are no bad moves as mentioned, so you can't criticize Fedoseev for a5. You can criticize him for his earlier play. Here, as I was explaining, knight d7 loses to either e5 or f6, but most clearly this when the white pieces are just 1,000 times more active than the black pieces. And well, you can try to find moves here for black, but it will be hopeless. It's just resigns. Therefore, you couldn't do that. You couldn't go queen e5 because of rook e d3, and there's no sensible moves. So a5, he's just trying to create some counterplay. You could argue that even if white goes a3 here, black hasn't achieved anything. But the bigger issue is that both e5 and f6 seem extremely strong. My guess is that Fedoseev wants to tempt him into going f6 when after queen e5 it looks like the game might not be over just yet. But e5, just keeping all the trumps and going f6 next move. Looks winning. And I'd be surprised if Bluebone does not bring this home. This is just too overwhelming a position. Wang Yue has decided to break in the center with e5 here. I was talking about this earlier, that I was not sure if Wang Yue should just remain calm here, go king f8, king e7, or continue to play aggressively and break the structure. That's what he does with e5, which is, however, a pawn sacrifice, right? After d e5. Sorry, did I break the system? I sometimes do that. After d e5, you're not getting this pawn back instantly. Or do you? Rook e8? Ah, you actually do get it back instantly if you want, because f4, there's d4 check. Picking up this. So, yeah, I guess you could go for this. It should be equal. And can you do something else? d4 check, does that make sense? Probably not, when the king is just pushed to f4, where it defends the pawn. Yeah, I guess his point is to play rook e8. The computer says, I don't know. The computer used to say rook h4, but that's a bit cryptic. Yeah, this looks logical and equal. Something along these lines. Well, the fact that the white c pawn is a little better than the d pawn probably cancels out the fact that the white structure on the king side is a little more broken than the black structure on the king side. So let's do a quick round. Yeah, it looks like This should end peacefully somehow. Looks like this did end peacefully a couple hours ago. Here, Kramnik still a teeny tiny bit better, but I have a feeling, especially with the built-in counterplay in the structure, this King's Indian counterplay, that Andreikin should hold without particular trouble. Now he can even get rid of his clumsy rook on e3 by playing rook d3 if he wants to. Should end peacefully. And Bluebaum has played e5. He should win this game and crush Fedoseev. Terrible news for me, of course. Mr. 2642 is going to pick up, like he already picked up a point yesterday. Going to pick up like 6-7 points today. He's going to go very far away from my mighty 2640 rating. But such is the nature of chess. Bluebaum is a very strong up-and-coming young player. So the old retired guys like me will not be able to stay ahead of him forever. Sadly. I was going to say something like nature finds a way, but I'm guessing I won't look very smart by quoting Jurassic Park. Then again, maybe I will. Anyway, I apologize, I get sensitive about the radio Jan comments. He's my creation after all, so I'll put in a good word. Maybe he can have a stint together with Lawrence over the next couple days. But I'm not sure about it. Like, I guess his maker is not always in the mood to transform. But we'll see what we can do. And yeah, I should not be. I should not have this whole identity crisis. Boo-hoo, people like him better than me. It's all in my head. But true. And rook h4 played by Wang Yue. Oh, that's the move I said. The computer gave this move. I didn't understand it. So let's figure it out. Does he want to go rook e8 without allowing f4? No, he could have done that immediately. What is the point? What is the meaning of this move? Sorry for the German accent. I'm just confused. Guessing this is more awkward now. This just going d4 check because the king no longer has access to the f4 square. That could be 1 point of rook h4. King goes here. Like rook a1 obviously wasn't forced. The king goes here. This could be, yeah, a bit of an issue for white. So his point is, yeah, he wants to give this check without allowing the white king to go active. And if the king has to go back, then the rook from h4 will cover f4. f3 will be weak. And e5 could be a target. Rook b1 is better than rook a1. The reason being that after d4 check, king d2, now there's never rook d5 because white has a check on b8, which he would not have with the rook here. The computer still says this is equal. Why do I mispronounce equal? Not the toughest word in the English language. After g5 and taking rook f4. But yeah, interesting play by Wang Yue. It does not bother the balance, but cute idea. e5 followed by rook to h4. Non-standard play, intending to give this check. And then gang up on the white pawns. Andreikin played g4. Yeah, this is what the structure demands. I was still curious if he shouldn't have exchanged this clumsy rook here first, but he's probably thinking he can use this rook for active operations. And for black, the logical plan seems to be c4 and then try to double rooks on the d file to invade here. But in the meantime, white could also, I'm not sure, don't quote me on the move order, well, white could try to fight for the g file, which is probably just as important, if not more important. Here, this check on g7 would be a much bigger factor than the rook coming to d2. Of course, none of this line was forced, and it's not going to happen, but just to show that white would have his own play. Well, if black starts with rook d7, then yeah. Maybe I'm too obsessed with this idea, maybe it's not his point at all, but we could still exchange a pair of rooks. Then the king would cover the d2 square by himself for good, which he can't do against two rooks, but he can against one, and we could use the other rook to create counterplay here, rook g1, g5. So, long story short, position equal. And let's go back to the Bluebaum game, where I'm reading Hoshi82 is saying after a4, only f6 is winning for Matthias. Not so easy to understand, at least if you're me. But I think it's fairly easy to understand if you're Bluebomb. Because what is black gonna do? Gf6, ef6. Checkmate. That he will spot. If the queen moves, now it's already, yeah, matter of taste, but the most straightforward seems to be fg. If queen g7, rook g3 wins the queen. If king g7 is probably checkmate in 2, like queen f6, rook g3, yep. Checkmate in 3 technically. And after queen e7, once again, your call, how you want to win. This position is absolutely, absolutely hopeless. And yeah, this is child's play for a player of Bluebomb's level. The only trick you have to spot is that you have this back rank mate here. But he's not going to miss that. Therefore, yeah, I don't think there's any big mystery for either of the players. Of course, Fedoseev understands what happened to him hidden in this position. And I don't think it's too early to resign here anymore, by the way. a4 has been played. He's asking for f6 to happen. And it will. I would guess that after bishop c2, white is still more or less winning. But that allows counterplay with knight c4. Well, yeah. As I said, f6 just ends the game. Gf, ef is the one trick. If the queen goes to f8, fg wins. Queen c7, once again, is very much a matter of taste. Anything wins here. Bishop c2, rook g3, queen g3. But this looks fairly straightforward. And could, for example, go for the good old plan of delivering mate on g7. That's quite effective. If you don't feel that, you could go for e6, attacking this queen, and mate queen g3 by ef7 check. Then fe8 checkmate. So, yeah, it's easy. The one blackout you could have is, yeah, not spot this ef queen e3 or just discard it. But even if you missed that, you can go, let's say, rook g3 check first. King h8, now ef, which is completely winning. Therefore, yeah. Bluebomb's gonna take his time, calculate stuff, but he will break through. And he will play f6. I don't have, I shouldn't say any doubts, but I'd be very surprised if he didn't. Sorry. Neuromancer is bringing up the very important question. Jan, do you ever use the word Sehnsucht? I'm guessing that means Neuromancer is a Rammstein-fan. Sehnsucht versteckt sich wie ein Insekt. No, I don't think it's very much in my active vocabulary, but it is a common word. So, yeah, like I said, I don't think it's in my active vocabulary, but I've heard it. And Bluebomb played f6, no surprise there. Queen b4 was played. I did not mention that on my list of legal moves. Oh, okay. White should still be winning, but of course that is a better move than queen f8, fg7. There is the brute force win. Takes. And takes. But this requires some calculating. Actually, yeah, I wouldn't want to do this. Even though the line is cute, so I'll show you. It's the computer line. I'm not such a big tactical genius that I can see this on the spot. But this line is very cute. Rook f1 threatening either queen f7 checkmate. Or the other idea, which we will see after bishop to e6. This is very nice. Rook to g3. And there is no stopping queen f8, let's say, whatever, any move really. Queen f8, rook f8, and g takes f8. Double check and mate. So that's a very nice idea, but not obvious. While after king g7, we win by obvious stuff. Rook g3 check, and king h8, queen f6 check. Or king h6, queen f6, and checkmate to follow. So bishop f7 wins on the spot, but you have to be sure this works. And this is, repeating myself, but not 100% straightforward. Even though, once you spot this move, you would go for it. Because it is obvious now that queen f8 check can't be stopped. Still, of course, bishop f7 is not the only way to win. The white position is too overwhelming. But it is the cleanest, and kudos to Fedoseev. I thought he just resigns after f6, or before f6, for finding this resource, because here the game still continues a bit. If queen g3, the point is now you go queen f8, after fg, queen g7. There is no longer rook g3. Of course, the white position remains overwhelming. Well, let's say queen f2 threatens rook g3. Will win the game, but with some fight still left. Therefore, this leaves Bluebaum with a decision. Because bishop f7 wins, but you want to be super sure, and in such an overwhelming position to sacrifice a piece and then it doesn't work is not a great feeling. The question keeps coming up, shouldn't it be Blaubaum? No, it is Bluebaum, trust me, I'm fairly sure. There is also the discussion which we already had. Sometimes that makes me believe that people are not watching every second of that show. Which is shocking. It's Sunday. How could you not watch a chess tournament that doesn't feature most of your favorite chess players, let's be honest, for 8 hours straight? I am also intrigued why it is Bluebaum, because in order to be Blossoming Tree, he would need an H here. My best guess is that it used to be Bluebaum with an H, and then the H got lost along the way. But yeah, Bluehen is Blossom. So that is my theory on Bluebaum's origin story. But I could be wrong. Speaking of origin stories, I will go to watch Spider-Man right after this Spider-Man Homecoming. I've heard good things, and I'm still very curious what happened to poor Peter Parker and Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Did he get bitten by a radioactive spider? Was his Uncle Ben killed by a thief that Peter Parker could have stopped? Can't we have 15 more versions of that origin story? I just have to find out. Therefore, I will go to the movies and find out about it. These are the two biggest mysteries out there in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What happened to Uncle Ben and what happened to Batman's parents? I just need to see 8,000 takes on that. Aristide is asking, do you sometimes get tired when people insist on asking stupid questions over and over again? Nah, I think this is the first time you asked that. Seriously? No, I'm just a condescending, not nice person by nature. But you can't blame people. They start watching the show, they have a question, they ask it. So, no, not really. Uncle Ben owns a rice company. I think that's a different Uncle Ben. I've seen the picture on this Uncle Ben instant rice that I always buy, because I'm too lazy to like. You need to do what? You need to put it in a cup and then boil it for 60 minutes. No, I get the Uncle Ben's instant thingy. And Ilker Nadi Boskurt is correcting me, of course. You are 100% correct. Did I say in the Marvel universe? Batman is, of course, in the DC universe. And yeah, I should not make such mistakes because it undermines my nerd cred. Even though I know... If there's one thing I know something about superheroes, so that is a very embarrassing mistake to make. I agree. And I want to apologize in all forms. I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, speaking of the DC universe, which I was informed is the first non-terrible DC movie. I've seen all the terrible ones, like this, what's it called, Batman v Superman, Justice League. I've sat through so much junk that we deserve a decent one, but I have not had the willpower yet to watch Wonder Woman. And I will go with Spider-Man. Even though technically Spider-Man, I'm trying to gain some nerd cred back here, it's probably not a Marvel movie because Fox owns the rights, right? What has Bluebomb done? He just played a3. Not in the mood to sacrifice his pieces. Fair enough. How does this work? Let's calculate. Queen takes b3. Looks like the way to go. And then, I guess he just wants queen g3. Yeah, that's actually very nice. Queen g3, threatening checkmate. And after g6, queen g5. Good old plan to go queen h6, queen g7, using the fact that the black queen can not hustle back to f8 in due time. Therefore, you would have to try this defense, but this defense normally fails. King h8, rook g8, and here rook d4, and we're threatening the good old, but never getting too old, mate. With queen h7 and rook h4, or if you don't want to show off. But why wouldn't you want to show off? Then also rook h4 immediately. If you try to fight against it by g5. Actually, I could have done this immediately. Yeah, all the lines win. Rook d8, threaten queen g7 checkmate, is just as good a defense. And rook d8 was faster than rook d4. Just as good a finish, not a defense. So yeah, I like this. Piece sacrifice to put this queen out of business, and then queen g3, queen g5. Or I'm guessing he could even achieve the same results by rook g3, g6, queen anywhere, f4. d2, e3. And here, yeah, this is the cuter tactic, just threatening queen g7 checkmate. Nothing you can do about it. Say here, here. Game over. Nicely done by Bluebomb. And yeah, in a position that's so strategically winning, there's more than one road to Rome. But I like it. I like his. It's very elegant. And speaking of very elegant, we have none other than the new face of chess. Lawrence Trent is in the chat. How did your tournament go, Lawrence? You started not so well, then you won 3 games in a row, beating up on the women and children, if I'm informed correctly. How was last round? I have not managed to see that. Lawrence, of course, will join me for rounds 3 till the bitter end of this tournament. But since his face does belong behind a paywall, it will be a premium show from round number 3, where we might be joined by the likes. And when I say the likes, I mean exactly Peter Svidler via Skype. So this is the time to go premium if you want a mug signed by Lawrence or yours truly, or both. You'll get one if you go for an annual membership. We might still have Svidler mugs hidden somewhere. And Lawrence finished with a solid draw. So to sum up, you lost the first 5, then won 3 in a row, then drew the last one. Probably still a disappointing tournament. But imagine you had started winning the first 3 and then losing the last 5. You would hate yourself even more. Therefore, what's not to like? Lawrence Trent, 3.5 out of 4, showing great fighting spirit there. Only lost a bunch of rating points. And he will be in great spirits joining us. And he will be signing mugs. Can we should have like his face on mugs. I shouldn't promise that because it probably won't happen. But I think it should be part of the long-term vision to replace the Chess24 logo with Lawrence Trent's face. And Anders 2400, not a big math champion. I'm starting to think now. Earlier, when you defended Niels, I was all good with it. But if you lose 5 and win 3, you don't have -1, Anders. And Lawrence Trent, is a glass half full type of guy. He's saying the good news is I got all my bad games out of the way before the British, which I will win convincingly. That's the attitude, and I'm still willing to take massive action against Lawrence Trent winning. Like betting action, not actual interference. And he thinks Caissa still owes him because of all the, I don't know why, all the bad luck. We will have plenty time to discuss that. And many other things. Game of Thrones is coming back. I'm not sure Lawrence nowadays that he's a serious businessman. He probably doesn't have that much time to watch television. But I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. As for today, all we have to talk about is, I'm not willing to call it a masterpiece. Firstly, because I'm very unwilling to admit whenever any of my compatriots does anything well. And secondly, because Fedoseev really played this game terribly. Starting with Queen e7, I think was wrong, but Knight b6, this is really not a position you can give a 2-6-50 player or 2-6-42 and rising player out of the opening. It's just horrible, and he did get crushed by the E and F pawn, the 4 versus 3 majority, which I've been telling you about. These pawns can sweep everything in their way. That's what happened. So yeah, excellent job by Bluebomb, stopping Mr. Fedoseev, arguably the man most in form in the chess world in 2017. Defeated Vladimir Kramnik the other day, had a great, he played great everywhere, right? Won the Aeroflot Open, had a great World Team Championship, had a great European Championship. Fedoseev on the rise, but today Bluebomb threw a spanner in the works. In the meantime, my main man, Dima Andreikin, has finally done the move, played the move I've been asking for all along, rook d3, exchanging one pair of rooks, which means that after this exchange, the king can now comfortably defend all these squares without the help of a rook, and the rook can focus on creating counterplay. Long story short, the position is equal, and I would expect this game to end peacefully. Wojciech Wang Yue has heated up a little bit after this very cute maneuver e5 followed by rook h4 by Wang Yue. Rook b1 played, best move by Wojciech, d4 check, king d2. It's giving the f3 pawn. And it's not taken. Probably once again Wang Yue decides it's better to fight against the passed c pawn than being greedy. Wang Yue plays king f8, classy move. Also freeing his rook to go rook d5 because rook b8 check would no longer be checkmate. Rook b6, rook c8. Okay. This plan of rook d5 did not last very long, but chess culture, he's making sure that the passed pawn is a prisoner that remains locked up, can't go forward. Locked up, they won't let him out. Alright, let's check back in with the chat. Aura Chess says, Game of Thrones will be so cool tomorrow. Mulushin45 says, good advertisement for the tea I'm drinking. Should I get rid of the logo? It's some green lemony thingy. It's excellent stuff. I'm not being sponsored by tea because I only drink tea. I'm also not being sponsored by coffee, but I only drink tea if there's no coffee available, which I thought. So I'm not sure. Castle Superlie is asking the important questions. You think the Rockets are any good this year? I think they improve. Chris Paul is a good player. I don't think they can get anywhere close to the Warriors, even if they get Carmelo. Like, I haven't checked news today. It looked like talks were on hold. But of course, yeah, they'll be decent, but not a threat to the Warriors, of course. What's Colin talking about? If you send your game, I can edit here. No idea what we're talking about. Lawrence says, oh, Lawrence was just made aware that Game of Thrones Season 7 is coming back. Yes, the episode, I believe, is tonight. So if you fire up your Sky, which is where people watch it, in the Germanys, or your HBO Nordic, you can watch it tonight. What's happening in the Wojtaszek game? I still struggle to understand who's pushing here, but the little engine bar is saying it's white who's pushing, being pushy. And probably the fact that Wang Yue decided to go passive here, or had to go passive here, means that he's the one who's in trouble. Currently, white is one up. The thing is that, of course, his king side is very, very weak. But I'm guessing the main factor is still the c-pawn and the white idea. Let's say bishop f3. This would be a mistake. Rook b8. Takes, king e7. And all of a sudden, the black king becomes a liability. Because after bishop b5, not only helping Caesar, the c-pawn, run up the board, but we're also threatening rook e8, jaque mate, which would be very, very awkward to mate for black. And probably this would be lost. Therefore, after rook hb1, bishop f3, not a great idea. But if we can't do that, then things might not be so easy. I'm guessing it's best to bring Her Majesty immediately, anticipating this rook b8 business, when after takes, we don't have to move the bishop. We can maybe take here. Yeah, I'm willing to change my mind midline all the time. This, I guess, is... black is supposed to survive. But to answer my initial question, it's Radek who's playing for a win, who's pushing here. And Wang Yue has to be careful. Which he normally is. That's how he's established himself. In the first place, defending slightly worse endgames. Very hard to beat. Even Magnus Carlsen recently had a tweet that his strategy was to win with white and channeling his inner Wang Yue with black. Which really means that he was defending slightly worse positions with black. He said that after he, defended a fairly passive, horrible game with the black pieces against Hikaru Nakamura. And Wang Yue was famous for just taking slightly worse positions out of the Berlin, out of the Petrov, out of the Pelikan, and just defending them. No big deal. Aura Chess does not sound very caught up on Game of Thrones. Who is the evil overlord in GOT? Is it the White Walker guy? Because there is no Ramsay anymore. Or maybe he's caught up and he's complaining about the one general Game of Thrones problem. That with Joffrey and Ramsay having departed, there is no clear villains anymore. I would say Cersei is like the main villain nowadays. Even though the message is probably also that it doesn't really matter. All this petty human business. Winter is coming. Like, you shouldn't fight each other. You should fight the White Walkers. Lawrence Trent is asking, can somebody confirm which channel GOT is on? Because he does not have Google. Please Google that for Lawrence Trent. Game of Thrones is on HBO, which means in Germany is on Sky, probably 1 day delayed, or on HBO Nordic. And what time? Question mark. Europe. I do honestly believe that he doesn't know how to use Google. It's not like... He could find this out for himself. But yeah, it's gonna be late. What's Kramnik doing? Kramnik is trying to open a new front. Clever. Now that the D file has been blocked, he's going after the H file. But will Andreikin allow that, or will he go g5? Fg, rook g1, king f6, rook d1, saying, let's go home. I'm not sure. Let's go back to the blue bomb experience. Fedoseev understood after a3 that queen b3 would bring him straight to Hell's Kitchen after queen g3. Therefore he went queen f8, but that's once again agony, and this is the line I think I looked at earlier without a3 included, but same deal. Fg, if queen g7, rook g3 wins, king g7 is just mate. Therefore queen e7, but now knight e4 is the end. A b3, this has been played, knight f6 check, king takes g7, and knight takes e8. 1 point being that after queen e8, queen f6 check, rook g3 might be faster, queen f6 check, followed by rook d8 or rook g3, you decide. It just ends the game. Therefore you can't recapture on e8. And if you can't recapture on e8, it's bad news. I'm not sure if it's worth continuing the game like that. If Blue Bomb wants to show off, he can show off doing stuff like this here. But if he doesn't want to show off and wants to put his knight somewhere, he will also end this game without any fireworks. Very, very quickly. King h8 has been played. So yeah, rook d8 is the funky solution. But it's not needed at all. I would expect Blue Bomb to just go knight d6, show e6, rook f3, and ask Fedoseev, do you really want to continue playing, sir? And I would guess the answer would actually be no. What are we discussing in the chat? We're discussing that the Game of Thrones show is now ahead of the Game of Thrones books, which is true. Here's my theory on that. This dude, George R.R. Martin, he's been around forever. He's been writing like fantasy books that no one read, and he's worked on this Game of Thrones stuff for like, what, 30 years? And now, mainly thanks to the show, I understand the books had a big following, but mainly thanks to the show, he's famous late in life. Then why would you use your fame late in life to lock yourself up as you do as a writer sitting at home and finishing those books, when what he can do is go to these conventions, have the time of his life, get probably very well paid for showing up at all these conventions and readings, and be an executive producer of the most famous TV show in the world? That would distract me from like writing whatever part 7 of Winter Schminter is coming. So I'm not surprised that the show is ahead of the books, and I'm not sure GRR will ever finish his book, because he's busy living the life, enjoying himself. As for what's gonna happen, I've given my theory the other day. It's gonna be this endgame where we find out, oh, little dude has, should I call him little dude, or do I sound less like an expert? Tyrion has Targaryen blood as well. You need Targaryen blood to be able to ride the dragons. We all know that Jon Snow has Targaryen blood because of R plus L equals J. So we'll have the tag team, or the triple threat of Dany, Tyrion, and Jon Snow fighting for the cause of good against the White Walkers. And eventually, fire will defeat ice, as it always has. And Blue Bomb, will you go rook d8, queen d8, queen f7, or will you move the knight? The answer, my friend, I don't know. You could also go very technical, but that's a bit dull. Go queen f6 and ef. It's also, of course, also completely winning. And it might force resignation the quickest, because there's no more tricks left. But it is very much a matter of taste. He's played knight c7. He's chosen door number 3. Point being that queen c7 runs into queen f6 check, so rook to b8 had to be played. And now, well, anything wins once again. Still an odd move to make. But, as I said, it's plenty good enough. Rook f3, for example, queen c7, rook f7. When queen e5, rook d8 would be a bit of a rook awakening. Well, with other methods, it's going to be pretty hard to defend f7. King to g7. If anybody can bungle this position, it's going to be me. I was going to say rook d4, but that's probably the one way not to play, even though even this wins. It's just too good a position. But yeah, let's not get too crazy. After king g7, give it a check. If you want to show off. Still a weird, like knight c7, I don't get it. I understand it's tactically winning, but put the knight on d6. Have the knight be an active participant and not like a trapped bystander. All of that being said, the position is like plus 10 for white, so it's not a big blunder, but it's a weird move because I honestly believe that knight d6 or queen f6 or rook d8 would all have forced immediate resignation. Well, after knight c7 you play rook b8 and you think, you know what, maybe, okay, it's impossible to pull off, maybe I'll get a hold of this guy. I promise you won't though, even e6. Like opening a line of communications between knight and queen. Just ends the game immediately. Nah, it is over. Blue bomb goes for rook f3, targeting f7. And a little detail, which earlier during my checkmating experiments, I forgot to mention is you can also play a little more technically here and take the knight to be a rook up. Therefore, yeah. Resigns is not a bad move here at all. Queen c7, once again, rook f7. Gets the job done. Nice game by Le Bleu. The Hawk, Grandmaster Jonathan Hawkins, is saying just queen f6 check. That of course wins as well. But I like rook f3. Taking this and this. Gainesville, Tennessee. I'll keep you posted if there is more moves made. I would expect Fedosseev to resign after rook f3. And in the meantime, we shall look at Wojtaszek versus Wang Yue. Der Henker is saying Matthias lacks a bit of killer instinct. Well, Fedosseev did resign though, so he did have enough killer instinct to finish that off. Nice victory by Matthias Bluebaum. And yeah, I don't know what went wrong in the opening for Fedosseev. I think it might have been a finger failure, because I believe after rook d1 you're supposed to go queen e7, but after h3 queen e7 is actually a serious mistake. And here after queen e7 bishop b3, it's not so easy to come up with a good move. After ed, your queen is misplaced on e7. After h6, you run into knight h4. And after rook e8, you run into knight g5. So I have a feeling, yeah, he bungled the move order early and then he settled for this, which is really, really bad position. And Bluebaum executed very nicely, converted very nicely. Andreikin played this g5 idea I was talking about earlier in a slightly different version, but I think it comes down to the same thing. If black takes, I was gonna say you go rook g1, which would have transposed to my earlier line, but after fg, now you can also play knight d3. Double attack, which is probably even stronger. Therefore, probably Kramnik should not take on g5 and play some move, leaving the position equal. Where I would guess we could get some quick move repetition, something like here, 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 here. Something along those lines. Would not surprise me. Horrible opening by Andreikin, but he's defended very well ever since and will hold this game, bearing big drama. Radek continues to put pressure, or at least he just attacked the bishop. But if this bishop takes this pawn, how do you make progress? c6? Take another pawn? No, this doesn't look like progress. I was thinking we can do this, and after bishop b7, rook a7, trying to win the bishop. But there is rook f2. If the king were to go here, which was my plan, then rook b2 is winning. So the king would have to go to c1 to stop that. Here it looks like black has picked up more than enough pawns to at least be out of trouble. I'm not sure if black is better, but he's certainly not worse. Not sure if he can win something like that. It's probably a draw, but not what you would want as white. So I'm curious to see how Wojtaszek plans to develop his initiative. What are we talking about? Bluebaum just needs to play more Super Jam events. Yeah, don't. That applies for a lot of 2-6-50 guys, right? I think Bluebaum, yeah, he's getting a bunch of good chances now. And he will make his way for sure. He's very gifted and very booked up, very serious player. This victory will give him some morale as well for the future, because Fedoseev has been the man of the year so far. Also in Bluebaum's age group, Fedoseev is a little older, like 2-3 years older. But to beat a guy like that, who is up and coming, will give him tremendous spirit. So yeah, shout out to Mr. Bluebaum. I'm still half steaming because now he's like 10 points higher rated than me. But at some point I should forget about that narrative. Because time is not my friend when you're going up against a rapidly improving 20-year-old. Therefore, yeah, shout out to Bluebaum. Good win for him for sure after a slightly shaky but solid draw in the first round. Bluebaum is now on 1.5 out of 2. Can we? Let me see if I can bring up the standings somehow. This will take a minute. But I'll be able to do it. Maybe. Here we go. Bluebaum at this moment leading Dortmund, and it's not clear anybody will overtake him today. 1.5 out of 2 for Bluebaum. Fedoseev on 50%, winning his first game with black against Kramnik, losing his second game with black against Bluebaum. Probably not how he had imagined his start. MVL 2 draws, Nisi 2 draws. Radek so far 1 draw, probably another. Same goes for Andreikin, Wang Yue. And I believe that Kramnik will not win his game today, and it shall end peacefully as well. Therefore, Bluebaum a big favorite to be in the lead of Dortmund after 2 rounds. And as I've talked about yesterday, if you're an outsider in a field like that, the start is so tremendously important, and getting these 1.5 out of 2. I also got 1.5 out of 2 in 2008 in Dortmund. That gives you so much confidence that you can play with the guys that I would expect Bluebaum to have a good tournament. Because normally when stuff gets really tough is you lose a couple games early and everybody crosses you on their calendar, starts playing openings they normally wouldn't play just in order to crush you. You start questioning your confidence and so on. That won't happen to Bluebaum this year round. So this looks like it could be a very good event for him. And I'm willing to change that narrative completely, should he ever lose a game in the tournament. What's Radek doing? He's played bishop b5, that's his point? Going for checkmates again, rook b8, rook e8? Maybe. It's more awkward to meet than one thinks. Because, yeah, The rook controls a 6, so there's no easy way to run away for the black king. Needs a square. We can't challenge this. Therefore f6 probably the only chance. Might actually work. I don't see a way to punish this. Check. And check. Probably just chases the king to greener pastures. And the black gains are more significant than the white ones. What's happening, chat boys? BBBBB says, Jan, you got a haircut. Should not do that. Now, sometimes you need a haircut. Otherwise, your hair becomes very long. Passion is talking about the dog in the pic looks more comfortable than Kramnik's clock. Not sure what we're talking about. Passion seems to be a specialist on childcare as well. I see. GMR Jan is asking, Jan, how do you practice? This is my practice. Me looking at these games with y'all. Therefore, staying up to date. But I play one tournament per year, which I try to compete very hard in that tournament, but I choose it because of it's a fantastic holiday destination, the Thailand Open, and else Bundesliga. So I'm not exactly very active over the last couple of years. And normally you practice if you have an event to practice for, or an event to prepare for. Other than that, it's not only, because it's a lot, but when I work on chess, it's normally Chess24 related. I do video series, I comment games, I analyze games, I do live commentary. And that, keeps me in touch with stuff. I think I'm still worth my rating. But let's face it, I've had that rating or in that group for the last 15 years. With, plus minus 20 points, let's say. So it's not like my level is dramatically changing or improving by me sitting here annotating these games. But I don't study openings for myself anymore if I'm not preparing for a particular game in the Thailand Open or the Bundesliga. Banter Blitz, that's my practice. Scorpio Zap is saying there is no dwarf dragon, Jan? What's your point? You're saying Tyrion can't ride a dragon because he's small? I don't think that is true. I'm raiding the chat, but it's too confusing for me. So let's look at the chess instead. Bishop b5, Wang Yue taking his time here. What he should not do is take the c5 pawn, because now after rook a7, your king finds itself very, very short on squares. Let's say king to d8, b8, rook c8, rook d7, king e8, rook c8, checkmate. That won't happen, just to illustrate. It's not all smooth sailing. But rook h2, as far as I can see, seems to hold just fine. Rook b8, threatening mate. Then you go f6. That sounds weird, f6. Create the f7 square. And you're right. Vladimir Kramnik, in the meantime, has played the move c5 to c4. Why wouldn't you? Covering the d3 square. Both sides are doing a good job covering all the entry squares into their respective camps. Along the d-file, the rest of the position is fairly locked up. hence draw it shall be. Shelbyville. Robert Kennedy is asking, can I get Radio Jan to sign my premium mug? I'm not sure he can write, but yeah, he can do something. I'll pass on the request. Go premium, Robert Kennedy. You'll get your Radio Jan mug. Not quite sure what we're talking about. Is this the thing where we do a mug promotion and every premium member that doesn't have a mug starts complaining that we do a mug promotion? I'm very sorry that you didn't get that mug. It's not my call when we do these promotions, but yeah, I deeply feel your pain. I hope that we will soon have a Chess24 merchandise store where we can sell mugs and t-shirts and all that great stuff. Crisildo is saying Jan probably cashes out. Not on you, Crisildo, because you're not a premium member. Therefore, yeah, thanks for your input. I'm not sure what I'm cashing out. H4 has been played. By Dmitry. Do you pronounce it Dmitry? Andreikin. Yeah, looks perfectly good to me. For a second I was thinking we can take and then push your h-pawn up the board. But it just looks too risky. This h-pawn is not going to queen, and you just give white a united front of pawns. And here after h4, for example, you're probably jeopardizing your e5 pawn as well. So yeah, taking on g5 is not a good idea. Therefore h4 just maintains the situation. I can't see any constructive plan for either side, really. I think it's just an equal position. Maybe. I was going to say maybe white can try to bring his knight around and target this pawn. But as long as the rook is on h8, that doesn't really do anything either. Let's say, okay, well, I wait. Is there any progress to be made here? And there could actually be some active plans for white, right? I thought it was a dead draw, but now I can see some ways to at least try to improve the position. Knight f1, knight e3, when there's some knight d5 check looming, or a4, and if takes, knight takes c4. Wow, could Andreikin potentially be better here? That'd be strange. Mikhailo Granik is saying it's not Dimitri, it's Dmitry. Yeah, my apologies for bungling all the names out there. I'm trying. I'm reading up on the chat. As usual, I'm under reasonably strict instructions to not answer non-premium questions, so if you're not a premium member, what are you waiting for? Go premium. And then I will happily, probably I will still be mean and ignore you and be condescending. I don't know. I'm not really in a selling mood today. To me, it's so obvious that it's worth 10 euros per month if you are only slightly interested in improving your chess that I always wonder why they make me do all these marketing speeches. But I, on the other hand, understand, because I'm a cheapskate with many things. Like, I'm still not using ESPN Insider, even though I spent half my day reading ESPN.com on the basketball section. But I think, it's an insider article. Nah, don't want to shell out. What am I subscribing for? I'm subscribing for music stuff. Like, I have an Audible, is it called Audible? Audiobooks subscription. NBA TV, of course. Is that it? Is that my list of subscriptions? I don't know. I also don't know what it has to do with anything. I was just thinking myself, like whenever I get on my high horse, go premium. Like how justified it is. Yeah, I don't have that many subscriptions. Oh, New York Times. I recently, my conscience told me, I understand you can't just go incognito and read New York Times, but I'm reading it so much that I thought I should shell out the, whatever it is, 250. Michailo Granik is asking, Jan, what is your best result at Dortmund? I did very well in 2008, where I was leading the tournament with 2 rounds to go, then lost to Leko, who went on to win it. I finished shared second at 4 out of 7. Did not do so well in 2012, where I scored 1.5 out of 9. Not my proudest tournament, that was, yeah. We were in the planning phase. Nah, no excuses. And there I got crushed. Oracha is wondering, will there be any sort of banter bullet? I did this once or twice, right? It's kind of tough to say anything meaningful while playing bullet, but we could probably do it. Mated for Life is saying, Radio Jan getting up to 70,000 hits on YouTube. Best hook for chess ever? I don't know. Like, I understand it's my character, but I don't think he's great marketing for chess necessarily. So I honestly get pissed if this video outperform my regular Banter Blitz videos. But what can you do? People seem to like him. Fuxia saying, premium just happened to me. Not sure what that means. You got a gift? Or is this a bug we have to report? Oh, of course I have Netflix subscription. And I must have more subscriptions. I'm really not keeping track. Lucius Sergius Catalina is wondering, what's your take on Lonzo Ball, Jan? Like basketball, I haven't watched any summer league or college games, so I really can't say. Of course, I'm highly entertained by all the narrative around the Ball family. But I have no idea if he's good or not. I guess he's good. Everything they say is that he's good, right? But I haven't seen any games to actually judge. Shows is saying, nice self-confession moment with Jan. I'm guessing you're talking about me not being premium everywhere. What I don't do if I'm not premium and I'm not supporting some site though is being very active and proud about it in their chat, saying, no, I'm here, I will be chatting it up, but I don't want to support you guys to stay in business. But once again, it's part of my job to praise the premium. I also do think that it's very much worth it. Let's be done with this discussion. The show will turn into a premium show. Once Lauren Strand, a premium talent, joins us starting Tuesday, we will also have Peter Svidler to come hang out and report on his recent activities. For now, I'm done trying to sell stuff. And I shall try to figure out chess stuff, which is even worse sometimes, because it's so hard. Both are so hard. Rook to b8 has been played. Can Andreikin be better here? Because I have a feeling he can no longer be worse, unless something bad happens with some breakthroughs here. But can he be better? Like the plan what was I doing earlier? This plan I liked. Knight h1, knight g3. And if black goes passive, I thought white could actually be better. But probably black shouldn't go passive and instead play b4, which looks fairly logical. Takes, knight to g3. Takes here. And let's go active. Let's attack the pawn. Rook to b3. Rook c1, covering it. Rook b2. I guess that kind of stuff. At least it feels like. And it feels like, I mean, the computer says 0-0. It feels like black should maintain the balance. Rook h2, turning rook h4 or rook h3. And it seems like it's equal. Wojtaszek played rook a8 instead of rook b8. Threatening rook a8 checkmate. Hang on. He didn't play rook h2, he went bishop g4. Whoa. Whoa. The line I was looking at earlier was rook h2, when obviously rook a8 made no sense because you can take it. And then rook b8, f6, I thought it was equal. But bishop g4 played by Wang Yue. And now rook a8 threatens this check. If f6, this is different. Here's e6, for example. Takes rook e8 check. This looks bad. So bishop c8 and rook to c6, still playing on the theme of checkmate there. This could be the move that Wang Yue missed. Because the point is takes. If you go bishop d7, a7 is coming, picking up the bishop. If you go somewhere else, rook e8 will checkmate you. So that would be really, really bad news. Or that is really, really bad news, because this actually happened. King to d8 was played, trying to stop that. Takes, rook a7 check. And this pawn will at the very least fall. And the two passed pawns are probably too powerful, right? Especially the c pawn. Oof. Say king d8. Not even sure if you take. But let's say takes. Takes. I don't know. I'm not so sure about this position. This looks like black still has chances to hang in there, even though, of course, he's fighting for his life. But this still feels like there's some chances. But I've seen, I'm not going to pretend to be unplugged, I've seen the computer, instead of rook f7, said c6 was very strong here. Probably just intending c7, rook a8. And yeah, this looks winning. Therefore, maybe after rook a7 check. He played king b8 and then resigned after rook f7? Wow, that's a quick turnaround and early to resign. Probably he could not see any chance. Well, that's normally why you resign against these two passed pawns. Why do you resign? Rook h2, just king d3. Well, it probably actually is hopeless. Wow, that escalated quickly. So rook h2, bishop g4. Kind of, yeah. Turned the tables. And That means Radek Wojtaszek joins Baum in the lead, correct? I know it's correct. I'm just looking if I have the stats somewhere. But yeah, Wojtaszek on 1.5 out of 2. And Andreikin has decided to play g6, fix the structure. After going for this knight h1 move, when Kramnik decided not to play b5, b4. Could Kramnik be worse here? I'm honestly not sure. Because this knight all of a sudden becomes very jumpy. The plan is knight g3, put the king on, let's say, f3, or exactly f3 actually, to defend e4. Then go knight f1, knight to e3, and then threaten a4, or knight d5 check. And yeah, sometimes the narrative is completely different if you see a game with a computer, like this Wojtaszek Wang Yu game, where the computer always said it's equal, it's equal, it's equal. Well, and if you're playing this over the board, it's probably just been Wojtaszek putting pressure for a long, long time here, with all kinds of tricks that you had to defend against. And Wang Yu did very well for quite a while, but then cracked after this bishop b5 move, where he should have played rook h2, which I was just assuming he was going to do. It's such a natural move, and you're not getting checkmated after rook b8, f6, which probably would have led to a draw. But kudos to Wojtaszek, who, yeah, did grind him down. And maybe Wang Yu's lack of practice recently goes to show a bit in that game. He's only played 7 tournament games in 2017, which, or 8, 9 now, which is less than me. And yeah, it's tough to play against world-class players like Radek Wojtaszek without that practice. He hung in for a long time, but then went down after a mistake on move 31. Nextpiano MVL has ended peacefully ages ago. And I have a feeling but Kramnik decided to block the queenside with a5, a4. Just so he never has to worry about white going a4, opening it. But I still have let's think this through. Is this a dead draw or not? Let's say I go for this and black does nothing. My first question is, but I think I know the answer. After exchanging rooks, white wins because h5 falls. And then it just makes a glorious entry to d5 eventually. And black can never take, because then he would be dealing with a passed d pawn and a passed g pawn. One of those with queen. So black cannot exchange rooks. That much is clear. The question is, can black just wait for good? Knight g3, rook h8 doesn't change things. So white has to try knight e3. He can put his knight probably wherever he likes. The question is, I say the question is a lot. That is the question though. Does this ever do anything? Takes. Gotta go rook b8. But there's probably still no inroads into the black position. Rook c5, king d6. Nope, this is a draw. The king can always cover all the entry squares. And if the knight keeps horsing around, knight c2, whatever, rook c8, knight b4, bishop b7. Still a draw, yeah? The fortress does hold. The knight already made it to b4 in the meantime. But the principle remains the same. Like you just make a waiting move. Sometimes that's easier said than done. But let's say rook b8. After knight d5. Takes. Another waiting move. And there's just no way no way through. So yeah, it's a draw, and probably good instincts or good understanding, whatever. Good play by Kramnik to go for this a5, a4 early enough before white ever can dream of opening the king side, the queen side, by playing a4 himself. And with all pawn breaks gone, he just had to make sure that once his knight arrives on b4/d5, he can cover all the entry squares, which he can. Therefore, as far as I can tell, there is not even a winning chance for white here. Just have to be careful to put your rook on the right square when it comes to waiting moves. But I can't even think of a wrong square. Like even rook h8, knight d5. We're still on time. And going rook b8, rook c5, king d6, or king d7. Really doesn't do anything. So yeah, this seems like an ironclad draw. Is this a move? Nah, this is just bad, right? Yeah. This is a losing attempt. Maybe a successful one, maybe not, I don't know. Yeah, this looks lost. It will be Zugzwang. You can't cover everything, because here this is coming. And black wins. But probably that shall not happen. Kramnik instead put his rook on c5 and decided to wait like this, not even allowing any knight d5s, because now he could just take it. He does allow... Earlier I hesitated to go bishop a8 because just instinctively I wanted to have that square covered. But of course nothing happens here. Still, I'd be very concerned to have the knight that deeply in my camp. Maybe Kramnik's playing for a win, trying to trap it. Or maybe not, maybe he just wants to go back. And then go bishop b7. It's a draw, there's not that much to say about it. One last right, Mr. Andreikin put the knight on c2. But, well, this knight does not have that many plausible places to go. It's just a draw. Also very important that this structure is forever locked up, so there's nowhere for the king to go. It's just too locked a position for anybody to do anything, which, all things considered, is probably a success for Andreikin, because he really did not play the opening very convincingly. This position he found himself in after 10 moves with white. I still think d5 would have been even tougher to mate, because then you never get bishop e3, because you run into the fork. So, all things considered, I think Andreykin can be quite happy with holding this together. I believe Kramnik will probably be looking back at the moment where he took on e4 and decided to simplify. Think maybe I should have kept some pieces on the board here. Maybe I should have played bishop b7 or bishop a6. Take it from there. But then afterwards, yeah, this position was quite equal already. And after g5, the tables turned a little bit, but only so far that Kramnik was the one who had to be careful to make a draw. And he did that expertly by going for this a4, locking the structure up. And then just waiting. There is nothing to do here. I'm curious if Andreykin will try. He probably will give one more right of knight f1. Check if Kramnik has not forgotten he has to defend this pawn by going rook c8. Followed by rook h8. But I'm pretty sure Kramnik has that covered. And now he can just wait, moving the bishop. Well, there's nothing much to do. In other news, Matthias Bluebaum won a very nice game against Fedoseev, which means that Bluebaum is on 1.5 out of 2. This, yeah, went wrong early for Fedoseev. I've just talked about this. After h3, queen e7, I have a feeling is wrong already, because after bishop b3, I can't see a good move. And Fedoseev's solution certainly did not solve all his problems. He got a very bad position and was very convincingly outplayed by Bluebaum. With some nice tactics in the end here after e5. Of course, everything is good. f6, queen b4. Bluebaum came up with this very nice move. a3. The point being that after queen b3, you get checkmated. Queen g3, threatening checkmate. g6, queen g5, threatening queen h6, queen g7, checkmate. King h8, queen h6, rook g8, rook to d8. And next move, queen g7, checkmate. No matter what you do. And yeah, I know. After queen d1, it's not queen g7. And good game by Matthias Bluebaum. Radek Wojtaszek won a game which ended surprisingly quickly, where it looked like Wang Yue was doing a vintage Wang Yue defending job, but then he went astray with bishop g4, went rook h2, fairly natural move in fairness, would have held the balance rook h2, and if white threatens checkmate by rook b8, f6, you are not getting checkmated here. After e6, you do have bishop h5 covering that square, which is a key resource. Instead, after bishop g4, the white initiative became too strong. Rook a8, bishop c8, rook c6, the key move, possibly missed by Wang Yue, because now you can't keep your bishop. King d8, bishop b7, and bishop d7, rook a7. Pick it up, while other moves still allow rook e8 checkmate. Therefore, Wang Yue had to try king d8, but here, rook a7 check, forced his king on the back rank. And after that pawn dropped, Wang Yue decided to resign instantly, which looks like early resignation, but really there's not much to do against the concerted white army supporting their c-pawn. So good win for Radek Wojtaszek, joins Bluebaum in the lead on 1.5 out of 2. Nispianu MVL drew like 8,000 years ago after Nispianu bungled the opening a bit, in my opinion, with d3, bishop d2. He took a very good practical decision and chess-wise decision after b6. When white is in big danger of being worse strategically if he just allows black one more move. Therefore, Nispianu decided to simplify here with d3 to d4, and the tactics work for him, at least when it comes to making a draw. No more than that, but it simplified the position, and the players, after some fairly obvious exchanges, agreed to a draw. So that is the round so far. Let's see how long Andreykin continues to pursue victory here. Knight f1. You had to try once in order to go knight g3 and target this pawn. But rook c8 shows that Kramnik has not forgotten the knight can jump here. And after rook h8, there's just nothing to do. There's no breakthroughs, there's no entry squares here. So the only viable plan is to bring the knight all the way to b4. But that's where it just was not long ago. And it turns out that there's nothing to do here. Rook c5 stops knight d5. But even playing the dumbest move in the position, there is no way for white to break through, because black easily covers everything. Therefore, yeah, I think there's 0 winning chances. Now that we've made it all the way here, we will, of course, stick around. I'm not gonna go watch Spider-Man Homecoming until 10:30, I believe, which is still a long way to go. I have to find a way to do something constructive with my time. And don't tell me make a chess video. Not gonna happen. What are we discussing in the chat? Different levels of premium. And wow, Robert Kennedy went premium. Time to get that sweet, sweet Radio Jan swag. I'll try to remember that, but best send an email to support. Tell them Jan said I can get that beautiful Radio Jan mug. I'll sign it so that it gets shipped out to you. And yeah, it's sad that Radio Jan, who I'm not even sure can write, is the one making people go premium, but I appreciate it a lot. Robert Kennedy, welcome. Passion says Spider-Man was pretty good. That's what I heard. I heard both Wonder Woman and Spider-Man are good, even though I'm always disappointed after I watch another superhero movie, thinking this is the great one. I did enjoy the Logan movie greatly. I thought that was really good. Anyway, the game has ended in a draw because I've explained ad nauseum that there's no way to make progress for either side, especially Andreykin. That brings us to the end of today's show. Let's try. Oops, let's subscribe. Yeah, that's the message of the show. Let's try. Before I leave y'all alone to fire up the standings and the games of round number 3, which is not tomorrow because in Dortmund they have a Kramnik-friendly, old man-friendly schedule. Summer fans. They do have a rest day after the first 2 rounds, so people can chill out a bit and prepare for game number 3, which happens on Thursday. Thursday? No, Tuesday. I always mix up Tuesday and Thursday. Not Wednesday, because I watch American Gods featuring Mr. Wednesday. Anyway, on Tuesday, after the rest day, we have MVL Bluebaum. Very tough test for Matthias Bluebaum. We have Wang Yue, Nisipiano. We have Kramnik, Wojtaszek. Kramnik will be steaming, and with the white pieces, very much will want to go back into the game. You see my haircut here? And we have Fedoseev, Andreykin. Neither will be thrilled with their situation, but both on 50%. Anything can still happen. In the standings, I have to scroll all the way up to see Bluebaum and Wojtaszek on 1.5 out of 2. Then Fedoseev, MVL, Andreykin, Nisi, pretty much everybody is on 50%, and Kramnik and Wang Yue on -1. That's it for today. The show will become a premium show with Lawrence Trent and Peter Svidler starting on Tuesday. There is still the mug promotion going on. If you get an annual membership, you will get a mug signed by whoever you want, really. And yeah, I'm tired talking about mugs too. This looks, I should probably have taken out the tea leaf thing. Thank you guys for watching, for keeping me company on this weekend, covering Dortmund and the fake narrative. Oh my god, will Vladimir Kramnik catch Magnus Carlsen, overtake him as world number 1? The answer is no. Kramnik is on 1/2 out of 2. Long ways to go, but it's a short tournament. There's only 5 rounds to go. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with Lawrence Trent and Peter, covering the last 5 rounds starting on Tuesday. See you guys then, hopefully. Thanks for watching this one. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your Game of Thrones intake. Enjoy whatever else you're up to. Good night. Bye.
A moment comes in chess when you need to test yourself at a different level. Chess24 Premium offers the tools that you need to reach your maximum potential. From hundreds of interactive video lessons to becoming part of the Chess24 community. You can analyze with friends or coach your students live. You get 24/7 coverage of chess news and events, access to premium analysis and commentary, and the chance to interact with grandmasters and other top players and coaches. Get advice from the best and even challenge them to a battle. Be the best chess player you can be. It's time to level up your game with Chess24 Premium membership.